Faites l'appel, s'il vous plaît, Madame le greffier.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Hélier. Madame le connétable de Saint-Laurent.
Présente.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Brelaz.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de la Trinité.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Pierre. Madame le connétable de Saint-Martin.
Présente.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Jean.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Clément.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Grouville.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Sainte-Ouane.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Sainte-Marie.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Sauveur.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Southern. Madame le député Labbé. Monsieur le député Tadier.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Luce.
Présent.
Madame le député Dublé. Monsieur le député Morel.
Présent.
Madame le député Lehegara. Monsieur le député Ayer. Monsieur le député Ward.
Présent.
Madame le député Alves. Madame le député Gardner. Monsieur le député Gorst.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Farnham.
Présent.
Madame le député Moore.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Mezek.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Ozef. Monsieur le député Balash. Monsieur le député Coles.
Présent.
Madame le député Poré.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Wall.
Présent.
Madame le député Miles.
Présente.
Madame le député Scott.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Renouf. Madame le député Curtis. Madame le député Feltham.
Présente.
Madame le député Binet. Madame le député Jeune.
Présente.
Madame le député Miller.
Présente.
Madame le député Howell.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Binet. Monsieur le député Ferry.
Présent.
Madame le député Kovac.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Curtis. Madame le député Ward.
Présente.
Madame le député Wilson. Madame le député Stevenson.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Andrews.
Présent.
Monsieur le doyen.
Notre aide soit au nom de Dieu qui a fait les cieux et la terre. Amen. Seigneur Dieu, Père éternel et tout-puissant, qui a établi le gouvernement et la puissance de la terre pour le règlement et pour la conduite du peuple, et qui nous a commandé d'avoir toujours pour but la gloire de ton saint nom. Nous te prions qu'il te plaise de donner à cette assemblée le don du conseil et de prudence, d'unir les cœurs et les affections de tous ceux qui la composent, et de la conduire tellement toi-même par ton Saint-Esprit que toute leur délibération est accompagnée de ta bénédiction. Réussisse au bien-être et au soulagement du peuple, qu'il de plus de commettre à leurs soins. Car nous t'en prions, au nom et par le mérite de ton Fils bien-aimé Jésus-Christ, notre Seigneur, qui nous a enseigné à t'invoquer en disant: Notre Père, qui es aux cieux, ton nom soit sanctifié, ton règne vienne, ta volonté soit faite sur la terre comme au ciel. Donne-nous aujourd'hui notre pain quotidien, et nous pardonnons nos offenses, comme nous pardonnons à ceux qui nous ont offensés. Et ne nous envoie pas en tentation, mais délivre-nous du mal. Car à toi est le règne, la puissance et la gloire, au siècle des siècles. Amen.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Hélier.
Sir, the Constable of St Helier has asked if I can relay his request to be marked excusé this morning. As members are aware, the ambassador from Spain is in the island, was hosted by yourself and government yesterday, but this morning he's hosting the ambassador to meet some islanders of Spanish origin, but will be in the assembly as soon as he can be.
Members agree? Excusez.
Monsieur le député Southern. Oh, sorry, Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Pierre.
Connétable de Saint-Pierre had booked a holiday before the time and he's out of the island. It's up to the Assembly to decide if excuse or default.
It's a matter for the Assembly. excusez or...
So what are the grounds for asking for excuse?
Deputy, I understand it was a holiday, wasn't
The
it?
holiday was booked a long time ago before the dates.
Well, before he was first elected.
I don't know the details because we did have elections, so there are some other people who had booked holidays before. Don't remember what was the assembly decision.
I think the position must be it's a holiday, it's not state's business, it's defo.
Monsieur le Deputy Southern,
Présent, simplement.
Madame le Deputy Labbé,
Sir, Deputy Labby is out of the island on state's business. She's travelling back this morning and will be in the Assembly this afternoon, all being well.
State's business? Yes.
Madame le Deputy Doublé,
Deputy Dubley is on the way to the Assembly. She just texted because she had the problems with the childcare this morning, but she's on the way, so she'll be joining.
Excusez at this point, I think.
Madame le Deputy Alves,
Présente.
Monsieur le Deputy Joseph. Vous jurez que Monsieur le Deputy Joseph est tellement indisposé qu'il ne peut pas assister aux États sans exposer sa santé. Monsieur le Deputy Balash. Vous jurez que Monsieur le Deputy Balash est tellement indisposé qu'il ne peut pas assister aux États sans exposer sa santé.
Les États sont constitués. On behalf of members, in the usual way, I'd like to welcome His Excellency the Lieutenant Governor to the Chamber this morning. That concludes matters under A. There are a number of subordinate actions under B. Under C, a number of matters have been presented or laid as described in the consolidated order paper. Under D, the following matters have been lodged. Draft cold weather bonus payments, miscellaneous amendments number 2, Jersey Regulations P55, lodged by the Minister for Social Security. Draft register of names and addresses amendment Jersey law P56, lodged by the Chief Minister. Restrict parking on beach slipways, lodged by Deputy Andrews P57. GST on menstrual sanitary products P66 rescindment, lodged by the Minister for Treasury and Resources, P58 that is. Increase to Christmas bonus, lodged by Deputy Rob Ward, P59. Income Support Medical Appeal Tribunal, reappointment of member, lodged by the Minister for Social Security, P60. Social Security Medical Appeal Tribunal, reappointment of member, Minister of Social Security, P61. Draft Employment Amendment number 14, Jersey Law, P62, lodged by the Minister for Social Security. New stamp duty rates, lodged by Deputy Andrews, P63. Extension of cold weather bonus, lodged by Deputy Porre, P64. Reinstate the reuse centre at La Collette, lodged by Deputy Curtis of St Helier, P65. Reinstate the reuse centre La Collette Amendment, P65, lodged by the Minister of Infrastructure. A vote of censure, Deputy Andrews, lodged P66, lodged by the Privileges and Procedures Committee. Law Revision Board, appointment of members, lodged by the Chief Minister, P67. Sea Fisheries Vessel Monitoring System Amendment, Jersey Regulations, P68, lodged by the Minister of the Environment. In accordance with Standing Order 34.1, Deputy Andrews has informed the Greffier of the States that the following proposition is to be withdrawn: new stamp duty rates at P39. We come now to appointment of ministers, committees and panels. The first thing is to announce that in accordance with Standing Order 1372B, Deputy Andrews has given written notice to me of his intention to resign as a member of the Public Accounts Committee. The next is a nomination with regard to the Children, Education and Home Affairs Scrutiny Panel, the nomination of the Connétable of St Clement to join that panel. Yes. I'm assuming it's going to be proposed by somebody. Who is chair of the panel?
Thank you, sir. Yes, I would like to increase the panel size to 4, and I nominate Conatable Marcus Troy.
Who is the nomination seconded?
If I may, sir.
Are there any other nominations? Very well. I declare that the Conatable St Clement has been appointed as member of the Children, Education and Home Affairs Scrutiny Panel. There are no matters under G or H. Written questions, a number of answers have been tabled to written questions asked by members. We come now to oral questions, and the first oral question is from Deputy Feltham, who will ask a question of the Chair of the States Employment Board. Deputy.
So I understood the Chair of PPC, are we going to take the other business first before?
I don't think there's any application to take any business first, is there?
No, I've been advised that we won't be taking that business first. We'll be doing that within the
set out in the order paper.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Will the Chair advise who authorised and approved the social media post issued by the government on Tuesday the 5th of September relating to the teaching strikes, and provide her assurance that the information contained within the communication was accurate?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to start by saying how disappointed I am this morning that schools are closed, children are missing out on their education, and family life is disrupted, which of course has an impact on productivity and our economy. Having said that, I regret that the social media post, which the Deputy refers to, was not specifically authorised or approved by a minister when it was published on Facebook. The information included in the post had been used earlier that day in a note to editors with a statement sent to the island's media outlets and was approved for those purposes alone. We therefore consider that the information was accurate, but it shouldn't have been used on social media at the time or in the way it was. On occasion, sir, we all get things wrong. But when we do, it's important to be clear, honest, and open. So I apologise for this, particularly at a time when the SEB was involved in direct and constructive conversations with the union, and I accept that this resulted in an unnecessary escalation of tensions. The Council of Ministers had been updated to say that there would be no comment, and I have to say that myself and my Vice Chair were deeply disappointed by this social media post.
So I don't think that the Chief Minister answered my question. I asked the question, who authorised and approved the social media post, and I did not get an answer to that question.
Are you able to be more specific? I'd understood you to say, Chief Minister, that it was not authorised at ministerial level. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's what I said, and I can imagine that the Deputy would not want a witch hunt, neither would I, but it was authorised internally, but not at a ministerial level.
So perhaps the Chief Minister could let the Assembly know which area or which department authorised the issuing of the social media post, and that would be a better answer, perhaps.
Is this your supplemental question, Deputy Feltham?
No, I don't believe that I do have had an answer. I haven't had an answer.
I have to say, how the Chief Minister chooses to answer is a matter for the Chief Minister. You may not wish it to be answered in that way, but if that is how the Chief Minister chooses to answer, we can't go iteratively and chivvy a little bit more of an answer along as we go. That's the answer to the question. If you'd like to ask a supplementary, you're at liberty to do so.
I will perhaps phrase my question a bit differently. Who is in control of the government social media posts, and who ensures that the social media posts do in fact relay the thoughts and opinions and the policies of the government?
Chief Minister.
Sir, the Deputy will be aware that we have many responsibilities, particularly in communicating. All I can say on this matter is that the decision to post this on social media was made by a senior official.
Deputy Rob Ward.
Thank you, sir. I was just about to ask whether you could see in the chat, and I apologise for not being in the Assembly, but I tested positive for COVID. So may I ask the chair of SEB? She mentioned that she believed that the post was accurate. Can I ask what average was used to work out the figures? Was it the mode, the median, or the mean? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Thank you. Sir, whilst I admire the Deputy's scientific knowledge, I'm simply given figures and I don't have an answer to his question.
Do you have a supplementary for that, Deputy Warden?
Yes, sir, thank you. It's interesting to be seeing this online and seeing ministers around her smiling. It's a very important question, sir, because those three figures that were published as accurate have very different meanings. And it's disappointing, sir, that the chair does not understand. So could I ask the chair to please find the answer to that question and get back to the Assembly during this sitting? Thank you, sir.
Sir, I do take this extremely seriously, and of course I will get the relevant answer, but, and that's all I can say.
Deputy Mezey.
Thank you, sir. If the social media post didn't receive political approval, why is it still online?
We asked that it was taken down the day that it was put up. I haven't got access to my social media at the moment, but I had been informed that it had been.
Supplemental, Deputy?
Thank you, sir. I can see it on my computer right in front of me that it is still online. Can I ask the Minister, therefore, given the divisive nature of this post and the role that it clearly plays in trying to foster public opinion against teachers at a time where that's extremely unhelpful, will she ensure that it is taken down as a matter of priority?
I would hope that officials who will be listening to this will duly do so.
Well, I have Deputy Tadier, Deputy Southern, then final supplementary, Deputy Felton. Deputy Tadier.
Thank you, sir. The social media post has, of course, been attributed to, as a direct quote from Constable of St John, who's the acting chair of the SEB, or vice chair, but we know he's been acting as chair in a sense. The Minister also talked about a witch hunt in the same paragraph as talking about accountability to the Assembly. So could we at least, if not have the name of the official, the senior official who authorised this post, but which wasn't authorised by ministers, could we have that person's job title?
Sir, I don't think that would be appropriate. We are all aware of responsibility and the way responsibility can be elevated, and therefore, as chair of the panel, I have to take that responsibility despite my earlier explanation and disappointment.
So there is a wider context here which I'd invite the Chief Minister to consider. We have a situation where the teachers who are, some of whom are here today, are being told that they have to exercise restraint in their request for not having a pay cut this year in real terms. We also have a situation where it seems the comms department at government seems to be growing and growing with new recruitment happening all the time. We don't necessarily know who those people are, what their job titles are, and they seem to be out of control because they're attributing words to ministers that ministers have not said. Is this actually not double standards coming from government, and actually a government and its comms unit which is completely out of control and in crisis?
So I can clarify by stating that the senior official who gave that notification was not a member of the comms team. However, and I would contest that our communications unit are an extremely useful part of government. One of our key aims is to restore confidence in government, and that means being able to communicate clearly. As I've said, and that requires the support of that unit, who have many talented people within it. As I said earlier, we deeply regret that this social media post was put out, particularly at the sensitive time that it.
Deputy Southern.
Thank you, sir. Would the Minister agree with a constituent of mine who described this act and the words used as propaganda rather than information?
No, I think these are useful facts that were earlier that day shared with as notes to editors attached to a press release, and they state the case. There is a lot of information available, and I think it's important that we share that with the public.
Supplementary, Deputy? Very well. Final supplementary, Deputy Felton.
Given that the Chief Minister has acknowledged that the information on the social media post was damaging and could cause damage to the industrial relations, could she tell us why she then thinks it was appropriate to have exactly the same information in the notes to editors?
This is background information. Often when press releases go out, the members of the media will come back with relevant questions, and therefore these were put alongside that information as helpful additional pieces of information.
Very well. Question 2, the Deputy Rob Ward, will ask of the Chair of the States Employment Board. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Chair, will the Chair detail what action has been taken in the preceding week, if any, to prevent strike action by teaching unions and the subsequent closure of schools? Thank you, sir.
Jane.
Thank you, sir. Once again, I simply wish to say how very much I regret that action is being taken again today. The States Employment Board has authorised its officers to continue in discussions for resolution of the pay dispute with teachers and school leaders. Throughout the dispute period, we have offered conciliation talks facilitated by JACS, and we continue to offer arbitration with an independent third party, and that offer was made some time ago. Our representatives met with the NASUWT and the NEU on Friday afternoon, resulting in the NASUWT withdrawing their strike action, an outcome which I very much welcome. The NEU, however, did not agree to the terms of withdrawing from strike action and were offered arbitration. They again said no, referring to the recent case in Guernsey where the dispute was settled by a tribunal. We also met with the NAHT on Friday and provided a revised offer. This was amended but rejected yesterday afternoon at a meeting that half of their membership attended.
Supplemental, Deputy Ward?
Yes, please, sir. Sorry. Excuse me. The Chair mentioned authorised officers met with unions. Can I ask the Chair whether the Chair or any member of the SEB met directly with unions so that they were in a position where they could offer a different offer if during those negotiations, or was it a set offer given to officers which is therefore not negotiation? Thank you, sir.
So it would not have been appropriate, and that is not the advice, that we enter into those negotiations directly. But what this States Employment Board has done in the past year is to meet regularly with all unions. We do that on a quarterly basis. We find those conversations to be extremely constructive and helpful, and through meeting and through dialogue, we're able to identify areas where we can improve and deal with issues as they arise. And we will, of course, continue to do that throughout the term of this government.
Deputy Mezek.
Thank you, sir. Will the Chair of the States Employment Board explain what actions she personally took and not what actions were undertaken by others to avert the strike action, which she says she regrets so much?
Well, members of the States Employment Board have been consulted at various points to consider how best to approach the negotiations. We did that over the weekend, over emails. We've been following the situation closely, and we met, I think, twice yesterday.
So just to be absolutely clear, then what has been offered to the unions, which has resulted in many of them maintaining their strike action, was something that was specifically decided by this Chief Minister and not from officers acting on anyone else's behalf?
So this is a negotiation, and we have a financial envelope within which we have to find a way forward. We have to, of course, balance the books for the public purse alongside meeting the requirements and looking after our staff. We greatly respect the work of teachers, sir, and actually as part of our relentless focus on recruitment and retention, a great deal of work has been done in the past year to improve and the support for teachers. We have taken on an additional 113 people into that group, covering teachers, teaching assistants, head teachers and school leaders over the past year. There are currently no teaching vacancies in primary schools as a result of that excellent work, and there are a small number of vacancies, 13 in secondary schools at the beginning of term. So I think that we have made really good progress. We have also agreed with the unions through our regular conversations with them to address their terms and conditions, and we look forward to doing so.
So with respect, as nice as that was, it wasn't even close to a direct answer to a very specific question that I asked, which was the Chief Minister, the Chair of the State's Employment Board, herself responsible specifically for the decisions that were made in the preceding days that have led to strike action not being averted, or was that a decision taken by somebody with delegated authority?
Sir, the negotiations take place with guidance from the State's Employment Board. It is ultimately my responsibility, yes, but I have to also balance the public purse. We are mindful of the fact that many quarters of our community actually criticised our pay offer to all public service workers this year of 7.9%. Average earnings this year are 7.7%. And we have to strike the right balance. As I say, we respect greatly the work of teachers, and we're working with them to look at terms and conditions, and that we have relentlessly focused on recruitment and retention to ensure that there's greater level of support for teachers as they requested in the classrooms.
I have Deputy Southern, Deputy Feltham, then final supplementary Deputy Ward. Deputy Southern.
Thank you, sir. Could the Minister outline for members what exactly are the actions she has taken in order to improve recruitment and retention in the teaching workforce?
This piece of work has been led by the delivery unit, which was set up at the beginning of our term of office. They have led a piece of work looking at the recruitment measures within the SIPES department and given support and guidance to improve the recruitment measures, to ensure that there's a sustained approach, to ensure that we decrease vacancies and bring in permanent recruits to fill the very important roles within our society.
So, if I may, the question was about specific actions taking place or not, and the answer that came was generalised waffle again. Well, if I may,
I think Chief Minister, you can ask what if you took specific actions in connection with this, and that was the nature of the question, wasn't it?
with the emphasis on specific actions, sir. Yes. Thank you.
Are you able to assist us further?
Sir, one will appreciate that although I work extremely long hours, I cannot be at I cannot physically do every single piece of work. That's why we have a public service on whom we rely. As the leader of this government, I have worked with officers to ensure that the appropriate focus is put on recruitment and retention, which is one of our 3 areas of relentless focus. I am really pleased with the results of that work. It has been an excellent piece of work from the delivery unit, which has seen an additional 113 members of teaching staff taken on in this government, and I am really pleased with that. That means that the vacancies that were so complained of last year are not there as children go back to school this year. And it helps to support teachers in their roles so that they can deliver of the very best. That's what they were asking for. And I believe, sir, that we are delivering just that under this leadership.
Do you have a supplemental question, Deputy Sutton?
I was expecting another one.
Well, oh, very well, that's fine. If you consider that a supplemental, we are running a little bit out of time in any event for this question. So, Deputy Feltham.
Thank you, sir. Given that the Chief Minister and her Deputy Chief Minister both stood in solidarity with their striking teachers in very similar circumstances in 2019, and her criticism of the actions of the previous Chief Minister, what has she done differently in this past week to what the previous Chief Minister did in 2019?
Since gaining office, we have done things very differently. As I've already outlined this morning, we have taken it upon ourselves to meet regularly with all unions. We do this on a quarterly basis as a States Employment Board. The previous government met more with their corporate services unions previously, met more regularly with the Corporate Services Scrutiny Panel than they did with members of the States Employment Board. And we are dedicated to continuing that dialogue. We find it extremely constructive, helpful, and we will continue it throughout this term of office. In relation to the strike action that we're taking today, what is different is that through our relentless focus on recruitment and retention, we have been able to drive down vacancies. We have offered to look at terms and conditions with teachers so that we can better support them in their roles, and as well as looking at their pay as a standalone item. And let me just remind everybody once again that average earnings this year sit at 7.7%, and our pay award to all of the public service is 7.9%.
Supplemental, Deputy Feltham.
Thank you, sir. I would like to remind the Chief Minister that it's not just the teaching union that is on strike today, it's also the National Association of Head Teachers. That suggests to me that the head teachers themselves, the school leaders, don't have confidence in the States Employment Board. So would the Chief Minister concede that the strikes today show that teachers and head teachers do not have confidence in the States Employment Board?
So I would certainly hope that that is not the case. As I've said previously today, we greatly respect the work of teachers, we value their work, we have offered to go to arbitration, and we have to take a balanced approach in this. Our pay award exceeds average earnings this year, but we also have an inflation issue, and it's part of our duty as the government to take a view on inflation and to drive down inflation so that we can support islanders through the cost of living with all of the levers that we have available to us, which are, of course, rather limited. And so, sir, it would be unwise of us to unleash that part of our responsibilities simply to placate one group of our greatly valued public service. And we have to consider how we continue to balance everything so that we move forward, keep everything working as best we can.
Final supplementary, Deputy Rob Walton.
Thank you, sir. Can I ask the Chair, does she accept the concerns of teachers and head teachers over recruitment and retention that seem to be at odds with her statements today? Or does she actually not accept those and see those as something that doesn't require her relentless focus? Thank you, sir.
A relentless focus is a relentless focus, and it continues to be an area of relentless focus. It stretches across all areas of the public service. I acknowledge that some of the figures are disputed, but we have looked and looked again at the figures that we're provided by officials, and we are assured that the figures that we have, and I've shared with members of the Assembly here today, are correct and factually accurate.
Very well, we come to question 3. The Deputy Scott will ask for the Minister for Economic Development, Tourism, Sport and Culture. Deputy Scott.
Thank you, sir. Further to the inquiry made of the Minister for Infrastructure by the Environment, Housing and Infrastructure panel last week regarding aerated concrete, will the Minister advise on the extent to which he has investigated whether any estate owned and controlled by the Ports of Jersey has been surveyed for aerated concrete, whether any aerated concrete has been identified, and any remedial measures being taken?
Yes. Minister.
Sir, I respectfully suggest that this question should have been asked of the Treasury Minister as shareholder representative for Ports of Jersey, because it is not ordinary for the Minister for Economic Development to be inspecting buildings at Ports of Jersey. But having undertaken inquiries, I can confirm that very few of Ports of Jersey's buildings were constructed during the window that aerated concrete was used, that is between 1950 and 1990, as a roofing and cladding material in construction. Inspections in June and July of the pier and departure terminal buildings have confirmed that aerated concrete is not present, and surveyors have confirmed that it is highly unlikely that the airport arrivals building contains aerated concrete, given its construction predates the use of this material. As part of the ongoing Ports Master Plan work, the Airport Master Plan, further surveys are anticipated across the harbour's estate, and this will identify any potential issues with the building materials used, including the presence of RAAC.
Supplemental question, Deputy Scott?
Sir, I'd be grateful if the Minister could advise who would be the best Minister to ask when these additional surveys are expected to be taken, and whether there could be regarded as some difficulty with respect to the split of the management of policy and finances of arm's length organisations in this regard between two ministers.
Are you able to assist with that, Minister, or is...
Which of the 12 questions would you prefer me to answer, sir?
Well, I think it's who ultimately has ministerial responsibility for investigation of public estate buildings for aerated concrete was what I understood the synopsis of the questions to have been. Is that correct, Deputy Scott?
Yes, I would like to know who to ask my additional question regarding when these surveys would be carried out, sir. Thank you.
Are you able to assist, Minister? It's not...
Sir, the Minister for Economic Development has responsibility for ports policy, that is the use of ports as ferry and airports, so deciding about their connectivity and matters such as this. Corporate matters, such as the construction of buildings, they sit with the Minister for Treasury, as in his role as a shareholder representative. Thank you, sir.
Very much indeed. Very well, we come to question 4. The Deputy Howell will ask of the Minister for Health and Social Services. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister advise the date for the first meeting of the Health and Community Services Advisory Board and the dates of any subsequent scheduled meetings, and confirm that these public meetings will be recorded so that islanders have the opportunity to view proceedings? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Thank you, sir. The date of the first public meeting of the Health and Community Services Advisory Board is set for the 4th of October. The board meetings will be recorded and made available to the public through the Government of Jersey website. Minutes from the board meetings will also be uploaded. The dates for the future board meetings for this year have been identified, and they will take place on the 1st of November and Wednesday the 6th of December. And at the December meeting, we will announce the meeting of the board for the following year.
Supplemental, Deputy Howell?
No, thank you.
Very well, we come to question 5. Deputy Porre will ask of the same Minister. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister clarify what steps, if any, she has taken to stop the sales of single-use vapes in Jersey and the marketing of single-use vapes aimed at children and young people? Thank you.
Minister.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank the Deputy for her question. Further to ongoing work will be to address the Public Health Prevention Strategy 2023 to 27. I can advise the Assembly that the Public Health team are completing a revision of the latest evidence of the consequences of vaping on health, alongside recommendations and initiatives to reduce uptake and use of vapes by children and young people. My fellow ministers and I certainly share concerns about the impact of vaping on children and young people in the island, as well as its broader environmental impact, and eagerly await the recommendations of the Public Health Review to take matters further.
Supplemental question? No.
Sorry, I didn't quite fully hear the full answer. Did the Minister actually say there is a review that is taking place with the self-included? I didn't really understand, sorry. Thank you.
With regards to the policy around public health, it will be looking at the health impact, and I'm working with other ministers on the much broader issue of vaping in general.
Did you wish to ask a supplemental question, Deputy Porritt?
Yes, thank you. Would the Minister be able to give us an indication what time scale she's looking into starting this review, and perhaps we could follow it? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, the work is almost coming to a completion, and I'm yet to be briefed on the output of that review. But once I'm in a position to be able to clarify the actual date of that work being completed, I can then advise the Deputy of the timescales we'll be working to.
Well, Conor Saviour.
Thank you, sir. I think we passed the point of reviews and more consultations. When what adults do is a matter for adults, but when children have access to flavours of vapes such as bubble gum, vanilla and popcorn, it's no stretch of the imagination. These are designed to get children hooked on vapes and maybe carry on to other stronger flavours. Will the Minister use her best endeavours to stamp out this practice, sir? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, I can assure the Constable that this is really an important matter for us to take some urgent action around. And as I've said, we are currently working to review the current arrangements and to be advised of the plans that we need to take in order to address the issue.
Supplemental, Conor? Deputy Howell.
Thank you, sir. I was just wondering, can the Health Minister confirm that the Environment Minister and the Minister for Infrastructure sent us a message to say that they were considering actually banning these? Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you, sir. Yes, we do have some shared concerns about the matter, and any developments would take account of the different responsibilities over this subject. We've already made moves to make it illegal to sell and supply e-cigarettes, vapes and products to under 18s. And we do intend to explore the best available options for regulations as part of a revised tobacco and vaping strategy.
Supplemental, Deputy Howell.
Thank you. I was under the impression that they were actually banned already. Thank you, sir.
I'm not sure that's a question. I think that's just a statement about the impression you were under.
I was under the impression that we were told that, is it right, that they're already being banned by the other two ministers? Thank you, sir.
Sir, I think the Deputy would need to direct the question to my colleagues on that matter, but the advice that I've received is that we have shared concerns on the matter. I'll repeat what I've just said. And we've already moved to making it illegal to sell and supply products to under 18s.
Deputy Tadier.
Does the Minister recognise that it would be somewhat inconsistent and perhaps ludicrous if single-use vaping was to be banned, the sale of single-use vapes, but the sale of single-use cigarettes was not also banned, given that there are no doubt much more significant health impacts from single-use cigarettes than there are from single-use vapes?
I'm minded to ask what a single-use cigarette is, as opposed to any other kind of cigarette, Deputy.
I think the penny drops, sir, and it's something I thought of yesterday and shared with my Reform colleagues, is that that's exactly the point, sir. there are only single-use cigarettes, and we know that cigarettes, for decades, we know, cause serious harm both to adults and children. And when you throw cigarette butts on the floor, as we know that many people do on a daily basis in Jersey, they often find their way into the sea. So are we talking about an issue with vaping here or an issue with cigarettes more generally?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. I think we're talking about a whole host of issues in relation to this habit, if I could call it that. There are clearly health impacts. There are clearly environmental impacts in terms of the plastic composition of these items. And there are also health and safety issues. And I think, as I've mentioned previously, we need to be working together as a group of ministers to actually confirm our position on this and address the issues of concern that people have raised.
Supplemental question, Deputy? Very well, I have Deputy Scott, then final supplementary. Deputy Scott.
So, with respect to the use of vapes, generally, I just wondered whether, and their use in people giving up using cigarettes, which I might mention I used to when I did smoke long ago. I would relight them and reuse them. I'm to inform Deputy Tadia. But could you please advise that about any advice being given for those who actually are trying to transition away from smoking cigarettes using vapes, and what's generally being published in that respect? And sorry, and how to get off of vapes.
Thank you, Sarah. I think in response to that question, there's been a considerable amount of research focusing on the issue of vaping as a gateway to smoking. And colleagues in this space continue to state that the evidence is unclear that there is a strong causal relationship between the two. Much of the evidence is pretty poor and concludes that vaping is not a gateway to smoking. I think the best I can offer at this time, again until we've completed the revision, is to assure the Assembly that our public health strategy and the work that we're doing to reduce the tobacco and vaping consumption on a more general basis hopefully will address some of the concerns that the Deputy has in terms of educational support for people who want to give up.
Well, yes, supplementary, Deputy Scott?
I thank the Minister for her reply, sir. Just trying to clarify, she mentioned that vapes don't necessarily lead to smoking, but insofar as smoking, people wanting to give up cigarettes use vapes. Just I was seeking clarity in terms of the advice that's been given to, if you like, complete removing from smoking cigarettes and then vapes and that journey.
And I just received a note that Deputy Ward wished to ask a question, but I'd already called final question from Deputy Scott, then final supplementary. So final supplementary, Deputy Borry. No, thank you. Very well, we come to question 6. The Deputy Mezek will ask the Minister of Children and Education.
Sir, sorry, I didn't actually have an answer to my supplementary question.
Sorry, I'm afraid I stopped focusing a little bit after you just thanked the Minister for an answer.
Oh.
My fault, I'm sure. Well, in which case, an answer then, Minister. I apologise.
So I cannot profess to be any expert on this, but I think the relationship, as officers have indicated and advised me, between vaping and or smoking, if I can put it that way around, demonstrate that there is not a causal link, or the evidence suggests that that there is no causal link, but also that the evidence is poor in that regard. The Deputy is quite right, is that people use vaping in reverse to help them stop smoking. And I hope that clarifies the position for the Deputy.
Well, then we come on now to question 6 that Deputy Mezek will ask of the Minister for Children and Education. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister advise what representations, if any, she has made to members of the State's Employment Board regarding the effect that years of real terms pay cuts has had on the ability of schools to recruit and retain teachers?
So before I answer the question, I would like to thank the bailiff to allowing me to remain seated as I'm recovering from foot operation.
Yes, that's absolutely fine. You can remain seated.
Thank you. Answering the question, sir, I would like to advise that I regularly discuss the ongoing dispute with the chair and the vice chair of SEB, and I really hope that all sides can come to the agreement soon.
So that answer said representations were made, but didn't say what those representations were, which is what my question was.
The question was actually if I made representations, if any. So the answer was, sir, that I have ongoing discussions with the chair and vice chair of SEB.
Well, I think thank you, Deputy. I think the question is, will the Minister advise what representations, if any? So if there are any representations, what were they?
I have listened to the teachers and the head teachers, and I have raised the various points with the SEB, which it's important for me that all sides would come to the agreement soon.
Sir, I'm sorry, but we're really not close to an answer to my question, which is about what representations she's made regarding the effects of years of real terms pay cuts. So she may make representations that say it's a jolly good thing or that it's a terrible thing, but I'm none the wiser for the answer she's given so far.
I will continue my answer, sir. I think what's important in this question, the Deputy asked about two things that needs to work together. One, it's about the pay, and another, it's about recruitment and retention. And I think it's important to recognize there are a wider range of factors that can affect recruitment and retention, and pay is not a single factor. Recruitment and retention of all employees is a priority laid out in my ministerial plan. Recruitment of all teachers is more challenging than it was in previous year. At the same time, listening to the head teachers back in September, I have made representation, and this is why the Chief Minister and Vice Chair of Chair of SEB, Vice Chair of SEB worked together with us, putting together a delivery team that helped with recruitment and retention this year.
Well, I think the question is directed, and I don't want to get into too much detail because we do have time constraints, but it's whether you have made any representations to the State's Employment Board about the effect of what is described as real-term pay cuts on the ability to recruit and retain. It may be you have made representations about that, and it may be you haven't, but I think that's the thrust of the question. Minister, are you able to provide clarity about
I have representations to the State Employment Board about the terms and conditions of the employment of vice staff that needs to be reviewed, and this is what's happening now because the pay is one of the terms and conditions package that offer to really valued and important teaching and head teacher staff.
Well, supplemental question then.
Thank you, sir. We're slightly closer, I guess. So I guess I'd like to ask the Minister, therefore then, seeing as what is on offer to teachers this year is yet another real terms pay cut, is she making a representation to the State's Employment Board that she is personally satisfied and supportive of giving teachers a real terms pay cut, or does she believe that somehow a package that includes a real terms pay cut is a positive thing for trying to retain and recruit the best teachers possible to teach the children of the island?
It is important, sir, to have a balance. For me, the package that offered for the teachers is important. And this is why I have ongoing discussion with the State Employment Board about terms and conditions, including wages, because the package, it's not just the numbers, as we've seen, because the numbers are different and they are not always met. And today it was recognized even by the chair of NIHT in the newspaper. We know that the inflation is above 10%, and we're offering 7.9. This is where the times are hard for everyone.
I think we must move Deputy Rob Ward.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Minister, does the Minister accept the concerns of teachers and head teachers over recruitment and retention and see the effects of long-term, real-term pay cuts on that recruitment and retention long-term in the profession? Thank you, sir.
I absolutely accept concerns of the head teachers about recruitment and retention. And this is why we are working together. We have more challenges in specific areas, but at the same time, our retention is under 4%. I think it's very difficult to speak with the numbers because, like I said before, the numbers are different. But I emphasize that I understand the feelings and I understand the overwhelming conditions because the teachers and all of us gone through the pandemic. And over the pandemic, the teachers were the front line. So the burden that happened there, we need to look and support teachers with the well-being as any other very valued members of the staff. So the situation is much complex, I think, just about the number.
Do you have a supplemental, Deputy Ward?
Yes, please, sir. Would the Minister accept that when teachers at the top of the pay scale, those that were given as an average by the State's Employment Board in their press release, every time there was a real-term pay cut, their pay is eroded? And would the Minister accept that they are essential, for example, to be the mentors and teachers within the JTTP programme, and therefore has a long-term effect on our education and profession on this island? Thank you, sir.
I agree with Deputy that it's a very, very complex situation. And this is, I cannot deliver my ministerial plans without head teachers and teaching assistants. And this was the reason that personally I secured extra 6 million to support staff within the school. And this is the reason that this year we recruited 113 extra staff to schools. We recruited 62 teaching assistants extra on top of the vacancies that we have to make sure that teachers have other staff. We recruited 25 teachers and 6 school leaders. So the investment going in, and actually we can decide how we continue to recruit to make sure that staff is supported and they have more time for their professional development and other things which are important that unions told me. And also head teachers told me, the money is limited and I would do at most to make sure to balance between the books and support and the teachers.
Well, have Deputy Kovac, Tadier, Southern, Feltham, and then final supplementary. That's going to take us well over the limit normally allocated for individual questions, but I have had notice of those wishing before I call time, so I will call upon them, but if they could be succinct, please. Deputy Kovac.
Okay, thank you, sir. Regarding to recruitment and retention of teachers, the Chief Minister said earlier in her response that there are no vacancies on teaching roles in primary schools and just a few in secondaries. From speaking with different teachers in schools, and I could see teachers present in the gallery nodding in disagreement, I know the reality is not quite there, and I'm happy to hear the Minister that the recruitment increased. But does she think it's sufficient for the needs of the schools?
Thank you for Deputy for the question. So I'm aware that in some schools they can have multiple teachers and assistants all at the same time off, some on parental leave, some of them on sick, and some resignation. So it is extremely challenging. The numbers that I have received, I don't have any vacancy at the primary school, and I'm talking about the vacancy that when we put the offer and it's going through DVS check, but currently there are no open vacancies at the primary school. And I have 13 vacancies at the secondary schools. And we are working to fill it. But again, it's important. There is complex between the fillings and the number, and I completely recognize that the work of the teachers is extremely difficult. It's very, very challenging, and we have dedicated teachers and head teachers and teaching assistants working with their heart. So I understand and I emphasize, and I can completely respect where this happened, but at the same time, we do have the numbers, and I'm trying to support as much as I can from the policy and from the recruitment point of view as a minister.
Supplemental question, Deputy Kovac?
Yes, thank you. Can the minister circulate by email after all the vacancies for teaching and teaching assistants in all the schools for this school year? Thank you.
Absolutely, I will do it.
Very well. Deputy Tadier.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Teachers have written to all states members and explained that their profession runs on goodwill and that a third of the hours they do are unpaid. Does the Minister recognise that we seem to have reached an impasse now between teachers and government? The government says they cannot give more in the form of a better package. So surely the only option then is for teachers to give up their goodwill and to give less. Is that a situation she wants to find the island in?
Thank you. No, I don't. I would like really to work with the teachers and with all teaching staff, because it's not just teachers, it's teaching assistants and head teachers. I can see all of them working together and delivering the best education possible for our children. At the same time, even today, we've seen the difference between NSU, that call off the strike, and as local representative Marina Major mentioned in today's JP, they're taking a pragmatic approach and they're sitting with us, and it was really, I've been at least told, very good workshop last week where representatives from the union and some of the teachers sitting and discussing their terms and conditions. And as she mentioned, that the terms and condition package cannot be done quickly, and this is why we need to work towards the multi-year deals. So there are different approaches. At the same time, I was very clear in the Assembly, without support of all our teaching staff, I will not be able to deliver policies and the best education possible to our children. So we do need to work together.
So this government's been in power for 1 year already, and they knew that the pay negotiations were coming up. So whilst there might be systemic changes that need to take place in education that will take longer, surely offering a below inflation pay increase, which is effectively a cut in real terms, only inflames the situation. Will the Minister, if she hasn't done it already, go back to government, to SEB, and say you need to put a better offer to the teachers to resolve this situation, otherwise it will be a protracted strike, industrial action, possibly resulting in work to rule for the next 12 months and affecting the morale and the education of all involved?
First of all, the better offer is ongoing conversation, because as I said before, offer include a whole package. And it is important that we will get the better offer. And I know that it was, I cannot obviously, I've been updated over the last week and last weekend conversations, and various offers been paid. And I think I said it previously at the public, during my public hearing and during my interviews on the radio, and Chief Minister has mentioned it before. If we cannot come to the agreement, if the agreement cannot be reached, it would be really helpful to go to independent arbitration, because every party can present. From my perspective, it doesn't matter what's happening with the arbitration. I will continue to work what we started, and we are developing this terms and conditions, and maybe even evaluation. We are talking about teachers and the head teachers, but I'm very personally worried about teaching assistants, which accepted the offer already, and they're working today. At the same time, I do believe that we need to do completely re-evaluation of the teaching assistant work, because what they deliver at school as important as teachers and head teachers. So we look at the whole stuff.
Deputy Sutton.
Thank you, sir. And can we get down to some specifics? For example, will the Minister assure members of the teaching unions that there will be no return to taking pay rises out of the overall school budget rather than putting extra money in for teachers?
Currently, it's not planned, but if it needs to go beyond 7.9 and all of us need to balance the books, it will be a conversation with SIPES, with my gross bit. Are we continue to put extra support within the school? So we will not take budget for what was provided from the school, but to get extra additional budget, the gross that will be offered for 2024, it is for the Assembly to decide if we'll put extra roles into the school or we'll put the extra pay rights.
Supplemental question, Deputy?
Thank you, sir. I thought that was...
Deputy Feltham, then final supplementary, Deputy Mezek.
Thank you, sir. Given the Minister's answers to previous questions, would she agree that the actions or inactions of the States Employment Board have impeded her ability to deliver on her ministerial plan?
I'm still on track to deliver my ministerial plan. I have more ambitions, so I'm on track to deliver 2023 ministerial plan, and I hope the situation will resolve quicker to make sure that we progress with plans that we discussed last June at the head teachers meeting.
Supplemental, Deputy?
Yes, sir. Within the representations that the Minister discussed earlier, what actions, if any, did she request that the SEB take to support her in delivering her ministerial plans?
Thank you, Deputy, for her question. It's to review terms and conditions and evaluations for some of the job to make sure that they're meeting current requirement, because we know that requirement for various jobs changed over the years.
Final supplementary question, Deputy Mezek.
Thank you, sir. Teachers have faced a decade of real terms pay cuts, and their earnings have reduced in real terms by around 11%. That is a trend. Could I ask this Minister if she believes that that trend can continue without exacerbating the situation on recruitment and retention of teachers, and is it her position that in her term of office she is content to see teachers become poorer?
I need to look at thank you for the question. The numbers that I got from SEB, and again, I'm just quoting the numbers that I got, and we don't like the numbers. At the same time, we're going back to the numbers. The last 5 years, average earnings in Jersey was 3.3% uplift, and since 2019, the uplift was 4.1. And as Chief Minister mentioned, that uplift average earnings this year in Jersey was 7.7, and we're offering 7.9. It's just the numbers. There are so many numbers running around that for me, the easiest way will be that the unions and States Employment Board will go to independent arbitration and present all their numbers, present all their case. An independent professional can iron down what's the number and what States Employment Board needs to pay.
So again, that wasn't even anything close to an answer to my question. And this is happening constantly throughout this morning, sir, and it's very unfair and disrespectful to members who are trying to hold ministers to account that they're just waffling and not answering questions at all.
I understand the point, Deputy. It's the fact is, ultimately, other than indicating that it does not answer the question, it's a matter of responsibility for the Minister, the nature of the answers that they give. And the only consequences for that ultimately are likely to be political consequences. In any event, that ends this particular question. May I just reflect on the fact that we have been joined in the public gallery by His Excellency the Ambassador for Spain to the United Kingdom and his party, and I'm glad that members have welcomed them in the customary fashion. You're most welcome here. Very well. Question 7, the Deputy Southern will ask of the Chief Minister. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Chief Minister advise what taxation measures, if any, she has under consideration to prevent further deterioration of standards in health provision on the island?
Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir. As the Deputy, I'm sure, is aware, it has previously been announced that the Minister for Health and Social Services is currently undertaking a wide review of the island's health and care costs, which will inform options for the future funding of our whole health and care system. The review is ongoing, and the draft government plan for 24 to 27 will set out a refreshed status of the review. It's expected that the ongoing work will provide options for future funding based on projected costs within health and care over the next 20 years. At this stage of the work, it's not possible to identify what, if any, taxation measures may be required to support those funding options. The Health and Social Security panel have been kept up to date with the progress of the review via informal briefings. So I would also like to add that we have made investment in a turnaround team who are focused on improving standards in both service, delivery and value for money. They are leading the financial recovery programme for health and community services. We have also invested in work in recruitment and retention to ensure that we close vacancies and retain staff in our health and community services. And of course, we continue to work with our colleagues across the water in Guernsey to find ways of working collaboratively together to ensure that both islands offer the best possible services in terms of health and social care.
Supplemental, Deputy?
Yeah, thank you, sir. Review this and review that. We're full of reviews. However, we know what the answers will be supplied by this particular review. They will make sure that the costs of delivering a decent health service on this island will be going up. As people live longer and hopefully more healthier lives, then costs will go up inevitably. What provision has the Minister got in mind in order to fund that improving provision that we actually need before we get to becoming third world status?
I'd like to remind the Deputy that I didn't simply talk about reviews. I talked about considerable action that is being taken and investment that is being made by this government in health and community services. We have, if I can just remind him, invested in a turnaround team who are leading a financial recovery programme. And before we start talking about adding extra taxes to people's pockets and taking away money from islanders who obviously need to enjoy the best possible quality of life that they can, we want to be assured and reassure the public that our health and community services are spending money wisely and focused in the right areas. And so that is the work that is being done first to ensure that our budget for that important service is offering value for money for the public and not taking away in taxes when it's unnecessary.
Deputy Mezek.
Thank you, sir. Speaking of taking money away from islanders, in 2016, this Chief Minister voted in favour of taking money away from islanders when she voted in favour of introducing the health charge as part of the 2017 medium-term financial plan, but it was defeated by this Assembly. That was a charge which were to see extra taxes placed on islanders, but excluding the super wealthy from paying the full rate. Could this Chief Minister rule out consideration of such a tax coming back in this term of office, or any equivalent that sees those with the broader shoulders exempted from carrying more of the burden?
Sir, it is not the appropriate time to rule anything out or rule anything in. That is the whole point of a review. But what we want to assure the public first is that we're spending money wisely in health and social care. That is important, and particularly as we look forward and are completely aware of the impending dependency ratio, it is vital that we encourage islanders to look after their own health, to prevent themselves from becoming ill, so that we can better cope with demographic change as and when it occurs. In terms of spreading the cost against those who are better off in our community, we all contribute in our different ways in the structure that we have. And recently we have seen some great philanthropic giving in this area. And without that, particularly charitable provision in this area would be greatly worse off.
Supplemental, Deputy?
Thank you, sir. We're talking about the government funding of the health services. That is not a matter for charity. That is a matter for government and for taxation. Firstly, I have to ask the question, does the Chief Minister agree with that position, or are we going to see a health service that is more reliant on the third sector and the more volatile funding methods that it has? Or is she prepared to say to the public of Jersey today, whose government she leads, that she will not impose upon them taxation that sees working class islanders paying proportionately more than the super wealthy, even though they are the ones who are most capable of paying, because that is regressive and unfair?
So as a small island nation, if we can't treat our sick and teach our kids, then we can't do anything, because we would not attract the people and retain our own people in the island to enjoy the quality of life that we wish to see. But, sir, when the Deputy talks about fairness, of course, he's speaking to the very government that has focused on putting more money in people's pockets, the worse off in our community, by increasing tax allowances. And we will continue to approach our government spending and our government planning in that very same focused way. When one looks at the percentages of people who contribute in various demographic brackets according to their wealth, we can see very clearly that it is the top 10% who contribute the most to the functioning of our public services.
Very well. Final supplementary, Deputy Sutton.
Sir, and may I remind the Minister, on the back of that last answer, that it's the top 10% that own most of the wealth in the island. The top 10% who own over half of the wealth in the island. That's the reality. That's the redistribution that somehow needs to take place. Does she not agree?
I think that's a very deep political point, sir, and that may be the view of the Reform Party, but that will be a matter for members of the public to consider at the election next time. This government is a government of balance, it's a government of fairness, and it is a government that wants to ensure that islanders lead the best quality life that they can, so that everyone in our community can thrive. And no, the Deputy may be suggesting across the way that that is a decline, but in fact, what we want to see, and what I hope we will see, is an improvement in living standards, an improvement in the satisfaction of islanders in the life that they lead here in our island.
We come to question 8. The Deputy Farnham will ask the Chief Minister. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Following the state's approval of P35/2023, sir, which was the condemnation of the brutal slaughter of dolphin and whale, sir, by the Faroe Islands, will the Chief Minister confirm that she has communicated the views of the Assembly to both the United Kingdom Government and the Faroe Islands Government, sir? And will she advise members whether either government has responded and commit to sharing any relevant correspondence with states members? Thank you.
I thank the Deputy for the question. As I wrote to the Prime Minister of the Faroe Islands Government on the 29th of June 2023 in line with the request that was made in P35 and enclosed a copy of the agreed proposition. The letter and the wording of the proposition was shared with the Ministry of Justice and forwarded to the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office as is protocol, in order that they were made aware of the views of the States Assembly. Both the Faroe Islands Government and the UK Government confirmed receipt of that correspondence, and I'm told, sir, that today we have received a response from the Faroe Islands Government. As is, and I think the Deputy will know, government policy not to share government-to-government correspondence.
Very well.
Sir, can I have a
yes,
brief
indeed.
supplementary, sir? Can I thank the Chief Minister for her answer, sir? And I do understand the government policy on sharing intergovernmental correspondence, but sir, on this occasion, she was acting upon a request of the Assembly on Assembly business, I think perhaps she could consider sharing the correspondence with the Assembly, and would ask her to give that consideration, please, sir.
Thank you, sir. I have to say I haven't yet myself read that correspondence, the response, but it is not diplomatic protocol to share or publish government-to-government communications, as I've said, but indeed I will, of course, give consideration to the Deputy's request.
Come now to question 9. The Deputy Curtis will ask the Minister for Housing and Communities. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister confirm whether there are any plans to alter the criteria for the affordable rented housing gateway to permit those who currently have a lease to be added to the waiting list, and if not, why not?
Thank the Deputy for a question. So the Gateway already accepts islanders who have leases for homes in the private rental market. Anyone unsure about whether or not they qualify can always contact the Gateway.
Supplemental?
Yes, I actually have been given responses to applications, and that is not the case. I can actually quote some to you. So I would ask if the Minister could check up on this, please, because in answer to applications, people are told, we are unable to consider your application, reason being you are bound to a rental lease. In order to be considered for social housing, you need to be actively looking for properties. So this would mean that people have to refuse to leave their properties and be evicted or become homeless to get on the waiting list.
Thank you, Deputy. My officers certainly don't agree with that. And I would also say that if we take a look at Band 3 and on the Social Housing Gateway, the band reflects applicants whose current accommodation is unaffordable given their personal circumstances, or who are deemed to be adequately housed but meet the eligibility criteria. So, so Band 3 suggests that actually what the Deputy is suggesting is not the case. But as I say, if there is a query, I'm happy to take that away after the Assembly, if the Deputy would like to put those to me directly outside of here.
Deputy Mezzo.
Thank you, sir. And like Deputy Curtis, I've seen with my own eyes an application turned down because that person was in a lease, which would have meant if they wanted to become eligible, they would either have to break that lease or squat in their home and risk facing eviction action before being able to become eligible. Since that clearly is at odds with what the Minister and his team think is the intention behind the eligibility criteria of the Gateway, will he therefore agree as a matter of urgency to go to his team and ask them to reconsider applications that have been turned down on that basis, since it's clearly one he does agree with?
Thank you, Deputy. I would say that I'm not aware of this scenario, so I'd absolutely advise that this individual gets in touch with us, and I will follow up and let the Assembly know what the outcome is.
Supplementary, so it may not just be an individual, so it may be more systemic if somebody in one of the government offices somewhere seems to think that that's a rule. So will he endeavour to make sure that that message is sent out loudly and clearly, that that cannot be a grounds for turning someone down from the Gateway?
Of course.
Well, final supplementary, Deputy Curtis.
Thank you, sir. I would just like to say that the wording does seem to be quite standard in the responses that I have seen. So I will forward that information to the Minister, and I would like him to check up on that. Thank you.
Very well, we come to question 10. The Deputy Alves will ask for the Minister of the Environment. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister advise whether a vehicle scrappage scheme was considered as part of the electric vehicle strategy? Thank you.
So Deputy Alves has agreed that Deputy Jeune may answer this question.
Very well. Deputy Jeune.
Thank you, sir, and I'd like to thank the Deputy for her question. Sir, the electric vehicle incentive was originally designed with a requirement that for every electric vehicle sold using an incentive, a petrol or diesel vehicle would have to be deregistered. However, consultation with the motor industry locally provided strong feedback that linking together the scrappage and the incentive scheme would artificially inflate the market price of those old petrol and diesel vehicles as dealers potentially fought to get hold of them. It would also add significantly to the cost of the purchase of the EV to the customer, and this would disproportionately impact on those on lower incomes and those that did not have a vehicle to exchange. It was agreed with the Motor Trades Federation that we would work together to design and introduce a more effective standalone petrol and diesel scrappage scheme.
Supplemental question, Deputy House.
Thank you, sir. What guarantees does the Assistant Minister have that fossil fuel cars replaced will not be sold on or kept in a household?
Thank you, Deputy, for your question. At the moment, we would be unable to guarantee that. The incentive scheme is try to encourage more electric vehicles to come to Jersey, and that is why we have put in that it is new or used electric vehicles that are first registered to the island. But as I said in my last answer, we will be very much working with the Motor Trade Federation to develop a standalone scrappage scheme, because it is imperative that we also do start to look at getting rid of old vehicles that are using fossil fuels as soon as possible.
Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. I note that the policy TR2 vehicle scrappage was removed from the carbon neutral roadmap. Are we now hearing that there will be a replacement for this scrappage scheme, given that the electric car subsidy scheme gives no guarantee of the removal of fossil fuel vehicles from our roads? Thank you, sir.
I'd like to thank the Deputy for his question. The Minister and I, when we first were discussing the details of this electric vehicles incentive, were very minded to introduce the scrappage scheme as part of this incentive. But as I said in my first answer, it was after consultation, it was very clear to us that actually this would actually be detrimental to the incentive scheme, and therefore we made the commitment to make a standalone scrappage scheme separately. As the Deputy is aware, of course, we have a very small team, and at the moment we are working on this incentive scheme, as is also the heating incentive scheme and others. So we have not started work yet on the scrappage scheme, but we will be do so as soon as possible.
Supplemental, Deputy Ward.
Yes, please, sir. I'll take that there will be a new standalone vehicle scrappage scheme being developed, but we just don't know when. So can I ask the Minister, does she agree, or the Assistant Minister, does she agree that actually the best way to reduce road transport vehicles is to make public transport the go-to means of production transport, and that's to be the thing that we're invested in most in order to change the travelling habits of our population? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy, for your question. It is clearly recognised in the carbon neutral roadmap that 40% of our carbon emissions comes from transport. And so the carbon neutral roadmap has many policies, and I think a number 11 policies, to look at the ways to reduce the fossil fuel vehicles use on the island. And active travel and the use of the public transport is one element of those 11 policies. And this government has been working hard to increase and support public transport use as well as active travel. There is also, of course, our bike incentive scheme, and soon we will be launching the cycling and walking infrastructure strategy to look at corridors of cycling infrastructure that can be improved for the coming years. So this electric vehicle scheme is one of many that will try to help reduce our emissions in the transport sector.
Well, I have the Connaught St Helier, then the Connaught St Brillard, Deputy Mezek, and then final supplementary. I'm afraid we're pushing over the edge of any reasonable time allowed for the questions. So, again, Connaught St Helier.
Thank you, sir. Would the Assistant Minister agree with me that she is putting the cart before the horse, if you'll excuse the pun, by making this very generous gift of £3,500 to relatively well-off people in order for them to buy extremely expensive motor cars, when she could have spent that money, I think it's a total of £4.5 million, on improving cycling routes and walking routes, particularly in the town, which will have got more people out of their cars than this technique.
Thank you, Constable, for your question. As I said in my last answer, this specific incentive is one of 11 policies that are looking at how to reduce our emissions in the transport sector in the island. And it was agreed in the last Assembly through the Carbon Neutral Roadmap and also the Climate Emergency Fund that this specific amount of 4.9 million was given to reducing fossil fuel vehicles on the island. The bike incentive scheme was taken from this budget line, and the rest was agreed in the last States Assembly, and I believe the Constable took part in that vote to agree that it is important to also focus on cars, because we cannot, though it is absolutely this government's aim to increase and to support islanders to use other forms of transport. And we have, of course, the transport hierarchy where you start with walking and cycling and then public transport, and then from there go to personal vehicles. That many times you will need to use your personal vehicles, and this is why this incentive is specifically designed to help support islanders to go from using fossil fuel cars to electric vehicles. And this incentive specifically focuses on the differences between the cost of an electric vehicle and a fossil fuel vehicle. So it is designed to nudge and to encourage islanders to, when going to purchase a vehicle, also mopeds and motorcycles are also included in this incentive, to make the choice of an electric vehicle over fossil fuel vehicle. And so the incentive is designed for that specific.
Could you bring your answer to a close, please?
That is why the incentive is designed like that.
So I should say that when I supported the carbon neutral roadmap, I didn't know that we were voting to spend £4.5 million as a gift to relatively well-off people to buy another motor car without getting rid of the one they had. Would the Assistant Minister be willing to pause this scheme while further scrutiny of it takes place to see whether it is being, this taxpayers' money, is being spent in the best way possible to make our island better for everyone?
Thank the Constable for his question. As I said, there's 40% of our carbon emissions come from transport, and unfortunately a larger number of that is from personal cars and vans being used on our roads. The States Assembly recognise that we're in a climate emergency, that we have to do something about reducing our carbon emissions on the island. And this incentive is in trying to encourage islanders to move away from fossil fuel vehicles. I do not believe that, I believe that we need to have a suite of policies to be able to encourage different islanders to be able to be able to do that. The Climate Emergency Fund is specifically ring-fenced to, with an objective to reduce our emissions on the island, and there are therefore a number of things that we have to do. Unfortunately, in Jersey, even though we are a small island and could actually really benefit from the use of electric vehicles, our uptake is actually relatively small compared to other jurisdictions like the UK and France. And therefore, this incentive scheme is to encourage those to buy electric vehicles.
Sorry, so I did ask if the Assistant Minister would agree to pause the scheme. Could I have a yes or no answer, please?
I do not believe at this stage that we need to be pausing this scheme. We are doing what the scheme was designed to do and was agreed by the States Assembly.
Very well, Constable Blood.
Thank you, sir. And whilst the incentives proposed by the Assistant Minister, I believe, are laudable, I would point out to her and for further consideration that the older vehicles, hydrocarbon-powered vehicles, are the cheaper vehicles which people can afford. And the proposals, as on the table at the moment, are for vehicles which are way out with the affordable capacity of many residents. And would I ask the Minister, is she prepared to take that in consideration, particularly if a scrappage scheme is put on the table? Thank you, sir.
Thank the Constable for his question. And we looked very closely at the prices of electric vehicles versus petrol and diesel vehicles, that is why we put a cap on this incentive for £40,000, because we believe that covered up to family cars, but not going into luxury cars. But I have to insist that this incentive is very much about also used electric vehicles. And so there is a number of vehicles on the forecourts that you will see in the island that actually are comparative to fossil fuel cars, because they are also second-hand cars. But also, though maybe the cost can be seen as higher in the purchasing of an electric vehicle, actually the running costs and maintenance costs of an electric vehicle actually is extremely low. And so if hopefully islanders, when looking into whether to buy an electric vehicle or not, will take the whole life cycle of the electric vehicle and their usage into consideration, because it is much cheaper to run an electric vehicle and to maintain an electric vehicle than a fossil fuel car.
I thank the Minister for her answer, sir, but the reality is that a lot of people are nowhere near affording up to £40,000, as was mentioned, looking towards less than 5,000 angle, which is what you can buy a cheaper, older hydrocarbon vehicle for. So I would urge her to consider the less well-off in our society when making the decisions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Constable. And absolutely, when we are discussing these incentives, we do absolutely look at the impact these kind of incentives will have on the range of the people in our society. As part of the carbon neutral roadmap, the just transition was very much an important part of the objective. So this is always looked at. Thank you, Constable, for
Deputy Mezek, then final supplementary. Deputy Alves. Deputy Mezek.
Thank you, sir. Is the Minister aware of adverts which are being promoted by car dealers to advertise for islanders to use the EV grant to purchase vehicles which are quite clearly not designed to be the primary vehicle of a household, and instead only to be used in the best weather, the rest of the time where they'll be presumably left in a garage whilst that household continues to use a fossil fuel powered vehicle? And does she think that kind of thing represents good value for money?
Thank you, Deputy, for your question. I have seen that particular advert that I believe the Deputy is referring to. And of course, it is up to the islanders to decide how they would like to spend their money. Of course, this is a very small, the incentive is a very small part of overall a price of the car. So I also, in that regard, and to the question the Deputy has asked, would say that's pretty much the same for mopeds and motorcycles as well. So I think it's really up to the islanders to decide how they would like to spend their money and when it comes to electric vehicles. And using the incentive, of course, we have parameters in place to help us to ensure that as many islanders have access to the incentive as possible.
Thank you, sir. If the purpose of the scheme is to act as an incentive for islanders to purchase a vehicle that will change their habits and therefore reduce carbon emissions, but is on offer for particular kinds of vehicle that are not likely to offer that purchaser much of a chance to reduce their carbon emissions because of the lack of use that the vehicle will get most of the time and the lack of requirement for them to scrap a polluting car instead, is clearly bad value for money. Does the Minister not think that there ought to have been a better targeted approach so that the money that is spent on an incentive scheme like this would have as great an impact as possible in reducing carbon emissions when this clearly doesn't achieve that aim?
Thank you, Deputy. I believe this would be a one-off example. I mean, most cars that are on offer look like regular cars and will be able to be used as all islanders use their transport. But I will be happy to look into that one particular issue because that's one particular make that I understand what the Deputy is referring to.
Very well. Come now to question 11 that Deputy Felton will ask.
Sir, I've got a
I'm terribly sorry. Clearly, sort of running faster and faster until I get up to speed. So almost there. Yes, a final supplementary, Deputy Alves. I apologise.
That's okay, thank you, sir. How will the Assistant Minister measure the impact and what kind of outcomes is she hoping to see, for example, the number of cars on the roads? Sorry. Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you, the Deputy, for her question. The way to measure this is to see how many electric vehicles newly registered on the island will be going up in the coming years. We have that data so far up to this year. I think I have till June this year in my notes. And so from the launch onwards of this incentive, we will be monitoring to see how many new electric vehicles will be registered. And my hope is that it will increase year on year. It will encourage more islanders to be able to see that you can have electric vehicles in the island, that it's not only good for the environment, but it is also good for the island and for people to use as well. And so therefore we start to see much more electric vehicles within our fleets in Jersey. As I said before, we're actually very behind in a number of jurisdictions. In Norway, for example, 80% of new cars that are being brought registered in Norway it's 80%. So we would like to, of course, aim in the future to that kind of amounts. Thank you.
Very well. Question 11, the Deputy Felton will ask of the Assistant Chief Minister. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Assistant Chief Minister state the total number of people working in the communications teams across the government, the total staff cost, and the average salary of a member of these teams?
Thank you, sir, and thank you for the question. There are currently 34 people working in the Communications Directorate, with another 8 working under the leadership of the Directorate in other communications roles across the government and emergency and public health services. The total staff cost is £2,468,325, making the average salary, which is the mean salary in this case, of £62,000.
Supplemental question, Deputy?
Thank you, sir. Could the Assistant Chief Minister describe for the Assembly the benefits that this cost brings to islanders?
Absolutely, I can, sir. Government has a duty to communicate and to communicate in the best possible way that it can and ensure that those communications are accessible to a very diverse range of people and communities that make up our community, but also wider beyond that. The people working in the Communications Directorate do so across a very wide variety of areas. They work at a local, national and international level. They touch basically on every part of government across the piece, and there is a huge demand for the resources of the Communications Directorate. I would also add that the way communications works, not just in government, but more widely in our community in general, has changed over the past 2 decades, and we are seeing change on a continual basis. And there is now, people now expect and demand immediate and instant communications. Therefore, the way government communicates has had to respond to that as well.
Very well. Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. Sorry, I thought there was a supplementary. I might have missed that. Is it my question, sir? Sorry.
It is your question, Deputy, yes.
Thank you, sir. Can I ask the Assistant Minister, given that £62,000 happens to coincide with the highest level of the teaching pay scale, even with a 7.9% pay rise, does the Minister feel that in the current situation with the teacher strike, this may be a strange communication to have, given what we've heard about the failure in the Communications Department recently?
Thank you, sir. I may have misheard the Deputy, but if we're talking about average salaries, and we're talking about the average salary of in the Communications Directorate, obviously there will be people working at lower levels and higher levels, and I know that is the same in teaching as well. So yes, it does provide an interesting comparison in this case. What I would add is that communications is a profession, and we expect and demand high standards from the people working in those areas, just as we would with other professions as well. And people may scoff in the Assembly at that kind of comment, but I think we should be showing respect to those colleagues as we demand respect is shown for others as well.
Supplemental question, Deputy Ward.
It's supplementary, sir. I'm certainly not scoffing, sir. I'm just pointing out the point that given that the average salary is the highest possible salary that a teacher can gain, does the Minister believe that that is a good communication at this point, given the teachers who are outside at the moment demonstrating on strike? And would she say that that is another reason why teachers should be supported in the pay rise that they desperately need?
I'm not saying it whether it's a good communication or a bad one. It is a matter of fact that I've been asked to provide some numbers to the Assembly, which I have duly done, and I don't believe it's particularly helpful to compare the work or the salaries of the two in the nature of whether I believe teachers should have a pay rise or not.
Well, I've been slightly permissive, I think, in allowing the ambit of questions to move away from the number of people working in communication teams and their salary. And it feels to me that is the essential frame in which the question is posed, and questions dipping into other salary bands in other professions or things of that nature seem to me to be out with the ambit and not clearly flagged within the question, and therefore I would ask members to bear that in mind when we come to the next question. I've got Deputy Farnham, Mezek, Howell, and then final supplementary. Deputy Farnham.
Thank you, sir. I just wondered if the Assistant Minister was content with the performance of the communication teams on behalf of the government. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I have full confidence in the communications team and the very able members who make up that team. I know a couple of years ago, when the new Director of Communications came in, he made it one of his priorities to look at performance across the board, and so I'm confident a review was undertaken there. We continue to, as we would expect across all departments, to monitor performance, but also the model and those expectations, and if they are meeting the demand in a way that is required and is preferable. So I have full confidence in the team.
Supplemental, Deputy. Deputy Mezek.
Thank you, sir. Could the Assistant Minister please explain exactly what her role as Assistant Minister is in determining the headcount for this particular venture in government, and what her strategy is on headcount for communication officers, and whether she thinks it ought to be decreased, maintained or increased?
Thank you, sir. Headcount is an operational matter that I don't get involved in on a day-to-day basis. What I do is challenge and ask for justification where I see that new roles are being proposed, and I do that not just within the Communications Directorate, but I take it upon myself to ask the questions of other departments should there be further roles that start to move in towards communications as well, because I think it's important that I do so. As I say, I've got confidence in the model as things currently stand, and I will continue to scrutinise and ask those questions going forward. And I equally know that other ministers do the same, often in a very robust way, and I'm sure other members of the Assembly will continue to do so as well.
Supplemental, Deputy.
Thank you, sir. So who is politically responsible for the strategic decision which has, I presume, been made somewhere along the line to see the staffing levels in this particular aspect of governance increase quite significantly over recent years?
Thank you, sir. The advice that I have received, because some of this does come before my time, so I do have to take advice on that, is that the numbers have remained largely static over the past two governments, and I suppose it comes down to the models that have been chosen to build the system around previously as well. As I say, I'm currently currently content with the model that is in place, but and I will continue to scrutinise along the way. I would say that we have previously looked at using external contractors, off-island resources, and it's been looked at and discounted as not being value for money. So that's all I can really offer in response at the moment. Thank you, sir.
Much indeed. Deputy Howell.
Thank you, sir. Whilst appreciating how important good communication is, does the Assistant Minister consider that staffing in this area is an area where efficiencies could be made? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I think it speaks to my previous answers that not currently every member of staff within the Communications Directorate is working incredibly hard on a daily basis, and communications is one of those areas where the individuals working within it are often have very transferable skills and are some of the first people to step up when needed at very short notice. And we have seen over the past year or so numerous occasions, including the major incidents where this has been required. And the communications officers working within government have been among some of the first and to do so. And one such example actually is the helpline that was set up in the wake of the floods. And there was a clear need to set up a helpline there and then, and it was communications staff that stepped in to do that out of the normal hours of their working day until it could be picked up by CLS colleagues the following day. So, yes, thank you, sir.
Supplemental, Deputy Hull. Final supplementary, Deputy Fell.
Thank you, sir. In previous answers to previous questions, we've heard about a value for money review for the health department. We also now know, due to the answer to this question, that the average salary of somebody working in the communications team is in fact higher than the average salary of a teacher. Given that, would the Assistant Chief Minister give the Assembly her assurance that she considers that this team is providing best value for money to the public of the island? And if she can't, will she undertake to do a value for money review of these services?
The Council of Ministers has made a commitment to look at value for money across the entire organisation, and the Communications Directorate will absolutely be a part of that process.
We come now to question 12 that Deputy Farnham will ask of the Minister for Health and Social Services. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Given that a new study, sir, entitled Reimagine, led by University College and published in the Medical Journey, has indicated that a 10-minute MRI scan can be used to screen men for prostate cancer, which is the most common cancer found in men, and that scans have proved more effective in diagnosing cancer than the blood tests. Will the Minister undertake to consider introducing an MRI screening programme for prostate cancer and potentially other types of cancer?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. As members may well be aware, we currently use MRI in the diagnostic pathway when investigating men with potential prostate cancer. There is no screening programme at the moment. The jury is still out on the benefits of that. In many cases, a screening programme of this nature may identify and diagnose lots of men with very low-risk prostate issues, which will never actually cause any physical harm. And the anxiety associated with this diagnosis may actually be more harmful. And that statement is based on the clinical advice that I've received from clinicians. It's also a very expensive resource, and used as a screening tool would have a huge cost implication for our health service, which members will already be aware is a concern. But I think islanders can be assured that when they are in contact with the clinician, the discussion between the patient and the clinician will determine at what point in the pathway the MRI will be used as a diagnostic process.
Supplemental.
Can I thank the Minister for her answer, sir? I'm not sure whether I think the message is that she is reluctant, based on advice she's received locally, to introduce screening programmes for the reasons she mentioned, sir. But it seems that the pilot study I referred to in my question was quite conclusive in its findings and demonstrated, sir, that lives were saved by more effective screening for cancers, and not just for prostate cancer, but for other forms of cancer in men and women. And I would ask her, sir, just to clarify, is she considering a screening programme, or is she not at this current moment in time?
Thank you, sir. At this moment in time, there is no wide-based screening programme planned. If I could just say that the study reported in the media, which the Deputy is referring to, was a feasibility study, and it was about using MRI as a screening tool compared to PSA blood testing. I don't particularly want to get into the clinical detail of it here, but there is a reason as to why these two different diagnostic screening tools are used. It's already been established that MRI is much better at detecting cancer, and the recommendation from this study in particular was that a larger screen trial was necessary, so that broad conclusions about screening the entire population cannot be drawn as yet. I think until we've got much broader evidence base, that will guide our decision making.
Well, Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. Can I ask the Minister, she said that the jury is out on screening, but does she agree that the jury is out on the effectiveness of PSA screening in terms of blood tests? Some GPs actually do say that it's not something they would do. And would she agree that this is a different form of screening that could be valuable to this island? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Thank you, sir. Yes, I agree it is a useful, and I think, as I've already restated, that we do use MRI diagnostics as part of the pathway when we're investigating men with potential prostate cancer.
Supplementary, sir?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Given that this was a feasibility study and we're now looking for a wider study in the UK and the demographic of men in Jersey, would the Minister not try to be involved as part of this further study, which will be both beneficial to men on this island and beneficial to all members of communities across where this could be useful? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Certainly, I'll make some inquiries as to whether or not we can be included in any trials on this basis.
Well,
sorry, sir, I couldn't hear that answer at all. Apologies. I don't know what happened.
I think we have time if you could simply repeat the answer so the Deputy can hear you. It's a little bit difficult because the Deputy's online, of course.
Yes, I can actually make some inquiries as to whether or not Jersey residents can actually be included in any trial work around this issue.
Very well. Final supplementary, Deputy Fung.
No, thank you, sir.
We come to question 13. The Deputy Curtis will ask the Minister for the Environment. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister clarify what work, if any, is currently being undertaken to bring forward food allergy legislation that aims to decrease the risk of anaphylaxis and other allergic reactions to islanders?
Minister.
Thank you, sir, and I thank the Deputy for the question, which tackles an important issue that's been in the media recently. The simple answer is that environmental and consumer protection officers have commenced work on a programme of subordinate legislation under the food law that we passed in this Assembly earlier this year, in February, that is looking at current food information rules. But just to provide some clarification on the current situation, most of the packaged food available in Jersey is imported from the UK or European Union, and this already provides an elevated level of consumer protection in this area through meeting mandatory EU labelling requirements. Our domestic law also legislates against misrepresentation of food, for example, claiming that a product is suitable for an allergic consumer when it is not. But of course, we do need to go further. And so, subject to consultation, proposed subordinate regulations will address gaps in current information legislation for domestically produced food, including packaged food and food that is pre-packaged for direct sale, which is the kind of food that comes under the Natasha's Law, so-called Natasha's Law in the UK, and for information provision on menus.
Supplemental question, Deputy?
Yes, sir. So could the Minister explain when he may be publishing codes of practice for practical guidance for retailers, when this might come about?
So there's the food law set in train a large quantity of subordinate legislation, which is currently being worked on. I have asked officers to make allergens a priority, the priority, in fact, in terms of the sequence of bringing forward that. But it does also include, the subordinate legislation will also be brought forward relating to codes of practice, import and export of food, food hygiene, and so on. There's a whole list of these things. So in terms of bringing forward specifically the rules on the regulations regarding allergens and labelling and so on, that is work, as I say, that's already begun. It is programmed to be completed next year.
Very well. Sorry, there's no further supplementals after the first supplemental, if no other member has asked a question. Deputy Sutton, you are no longer proceeding, I think, with question 14? That's right, sir. Thank you very much indeed. We come to question 15. The Deputy Ward will ask the Minister for Housing and Communities. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister clarify the basis and evidence used in deciding the recent changes to the affordable housing gateway eligibility criteria? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, and I thank the Deputy for his question. So I'd point out the reasons behind my decision to change the gateway criteria are explained in my roadmap. I'm hoping the Deputy can see that on screen. The roadmap for improving access to social housing in Jersey, which I published at the end of July this year. I just particularly point the Deputy in the direction of page 5, paragraph 3.5, which should probably help to inform his question, the answer to his question. I want social housing to be accessible to all islanders who may need help with housing costs, which is especially important as Jersey continues to experience housing and cost of living pressures. I'm concerned that the Gateway does not provide an accurate picture of need. I want to surface the true demand for social housing. In light of additional housing supply that is becoming available, we can start to widen access to social housing with the confidence that demand is going to be met.
Supplemental question, Deputy?
Thank you, sir. Thank you to the reference to the document. It was really for something to be said in public, but I'm sure the public can look that up. Can I ask the Minister, has he considered, and this is a genuinely question regards widening the gateway, there is a demographic on the island, sir, the early 20s, mid-20s, young people who are paying extortionate rents in the private sector sometimes, and they are really struggling to make ends meet, and that's a demographic that may be leaving the island. So can I ask the Minister whether he'll be looking to extend to younger people so that they have a settled home with a longer term contract with our social housing provider and more security of tenure to help them build their careers on island? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy, for your question. And once again, I'm afraid I have to point you in the direction of the roadmap for improving access to social housing, because we have a very definite timeline in which we are going to be dropping the age demographic for access to social housing. Very quickly, and again, as the Deputy points out, this is a public document, so probably not best that I repeat what is said in this document, but it's our intention to drop the age access down to 25 in approximately 12 months' time.
Very well. We come to question 16. That Deputy Mezek will ask of the same Minister. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister advise whether he has given consideration to the abolition of no-fault and revenge evictions in order to empower tenants to challenge unjustifiable rent increases and non-compliance with the minimum health and safety standards for rental properties? And will he ensure that these measures are included in any new residential tenancy law he proposes? And if not, why not?
So I thank the Deputy for his question. The Deputy is aware that I've given consideration to these issues. They formed part of my public consultation. In fact, the Deputy was present at a rather famous St Helier Parish Hall presentation to the Jersey Landlords Association when we talked about updating the residential tenancy law. I do not intend to offer premature guarantees on which measures will be progressed within the draft residential tenancy law before the feedback from Ireland has been analysed and the results published later this autumn. I hope the Deputy can respect that.
Supplemental, Deputy.
Thank you, sir. And in reference to the meeting that the Minister referred to, it was absolutely clear of a severe lack of understanding from many of those who were present of what a no-fault eviction is or what a revenge eviction is. Can the Minister assure this Assembly that just because a misunderstanding is commonly held does not mean that it will have a greater weight in any of his considerations because of the volume of that consideration, and rather it's matching up with the reality and the facts will hold a greater consideration, and he not budge on what was in his consultation paper to end the scourge of no-fault and revenge evictions?
Thank Deputy for his question. I appreciate your endeavouring to force my arm to give an opinion in this scenario. I clearly can't. With due respect, we have a huge response, 310 responses, many of which were very detailed. They're in batches of 10 outstandings. They're sort of divided into approximately 50 batches, I should say, for analysis. There are still 10 to be analysed, and these will be completed in the next couple of weeks. So I really cannot say, make any commentary on what the outcome of that will be, but in the fullness of time, the Deputy will get to hear the outcome of that consultation.
Very well, we come to question 17 that Deputy Scott will ask of the Solicitor General. Deputy Scott? Very well, that ends question time. And we move now to questions without notice. The first period of questions without notice is to the Minister for Children and Education. Does nobody have any questions for the Minister for Children and Education? Deputy Mezek?
Yes, please, sir.
Well, I've got Deputy Mezek, then Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. I guess we're going to try to dig even deeper from where we were in questions previously, where we still, I don't think, got adequate answers from this Minister about her approach to the pay dispute with the teachers who we entrust to educate the children of Jersey. Will this Minister indicate whether she wishes to see the continuation of the decade-long cut in real terms pay for teachers through her term of office, or will she be the Minister who stands up and says, no, we cannot expect to see better recruitment and retention of teachers whilst asking them to become poorer for that?
Thank you for Deputy for trying to get clarification, and I think I was clear and I will repeat. The recruitment and retention, it's not just about the pay. The second point, because the numbers are not matching, and I presented so many numbers, I would prefer that both parties would go to independent arbitrator who can listen and pull all together and present in front of me and say, this is the situation. So I currently have mixed messages, and I would not like to commit here about a specific number, but I would commit about working with teaching unions to work on their pays and conditions.
Supplemental.
Thank you, sir. Well, I had brilliant maths teachers at school, and that means I don't need to defer to another body to know that if you have inflation above the nominal pay increase, that amounts to a real terms pay cut, and that is what teachers have faced for the last decade. How is it that the Minister can be in office for a year and to be facing industrial action from her workforce and the disruption that that causes to students, and she doesn't even appear to know the fact that her workforce are worse off because of those pay offerings? And is it not an abdication of her responsibility to stand up for the island's children and our education service by getting to grips with those facts a bit quicker, so she could be an advocate for our teachers and our education system by helping them advocate for the pay rise that they deserve?
I work with teachers daily and communicate, and I completely respect and value their contributions to our children's education. I'm Education and Children Minister because I do believe this is our future. About the numbers, there are different packages we're offering through decade. What we're seeing this year, yes, this year inflation is higher and we're offering 7.9%. And I completely recognize this is the situation. It's hard for everyone. It's hard for everyone, and we need to get together to work it. What's happening over the decades with all deals that we've been offered, this is why I'm responsible for the policies. And if this will become from the arbitration about specific numbers, I would work with them. Currently, I'm working on the pays and conditions, and to reduce the head teachers' workload, we added 113 staff this year during my term to be able that the children would receive one-to-one support, that the teachers would have time to prep when the teaching assistants working with the children, and I would continue. I still have funds and plans to deliver support to our workforce at the schools.
Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. I slightly changed my question, given some answers today. Given that we've heard today that the average salary in the communications department is slightly above the very top of the pay scale for the most experienced teachers in Jersey, does the Minister believe that that is a good use of state's money, given that there is a real issue for those most experienced teachers in Jersey in terms of their retention? Thank you, sir.
First of all, again, as in communication department, as in our department, there are really different scales, and including teaching assistants that they're actually not part of the unions, and there's a civil servants grade. Now, what's important, and this is actually part of the work that's currently in place when we're looking at the terms and conditions and evaluation, and to see what grade needs to be updated. And this is the work that will be done, and this is why NSUTT decided, okay, it doesn't happen in one day. We are progressing. We progressed a lot. We progressed in some support reducing workload this year, and about terms and conditions and evaluation of the jobs. We are working currently, and hope we'll find this multi-year deal ironing this down.
So that wasn't an answer to a question about value for money, but let's try another one. Given that the teachers at the top of the pay scale, each year that they don't get an inflation-linked pay rise, take a pay cut, does the Minister see this as a risk, for example, of the JTTP scheme that is totally reliant upon mentoring of the most experienced staff in school? And given that they're now seeing that a communications job may be actually more money, is there a risk that they might move out of that profession? And what else is going to be done to address this pay issue?
As we can see, there are so many different factors, and if Deputy already mentioned Jersey Teachers Training, we know that we have 74% retention from 2004 still working in our teaching workforce.
Deputy Pori.
Thank you, sir. Can I please ask the Minister of Education if she's able to tell the Assembly if the current Jersey single-use of vape regulations are in compliance with the UNCRC Article 3 for the best interests of the children? Thank you.
Thank you for Deputy to the question. I assume I would like to answer. First of all, as a minister, I have raised at the Council of Ministers that, from my perspective, we need to ban it. This is my position. I didn't check exact the numbers because I don't have it in front of me, but regardless if we comply or not comply, I don't think we need to use it. And this is, I would like to work with the Council of Ministers to ban it.
Supplemental question? No.
Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Luce.
Thank you, sir. So regardless of their ability to pay, whether they have money or not, in the east of the island, parents with very young children are desperately short of nursery spaces. I know the Minister's seen the challenges faced by many parents, but can she update the Assembly on what progress she's making in this regard?
Absolutely. Thank you, Deputy, for your question. And as the Deputy aware that I have Assistant Minister with full responsibilities for the yes, we just now announced grant for 1,200 to make sure that we have more childminders coming and supporting. We are working with, there are some options in place that we'll really announce shortly how we're increasing capacity because actually at the school nurseries we have 145 free spaces because there is no wraparound care available and we can see more pressure on the private nurseries. So we try to work together how we can balance between all the stakeholders and offer not just more places because there is several things that we are working. It's about the quality of provision. We're working about the availability of the place and affordability at the same time. So it is complex, but it is in progress, and we're doing small steps like supporting, for example, childminders that hopefully will provide, at the meantime, childcare once we're working with the nurseries.
Supplemental question, Deputy?
Yes, thank you, sir. And while safeguarding must be of absolute paramount importance, does the Minister accept that it might be her own rules and regulations which are making it difficult for some of these nurseries to keep operating and open at the hours required?
As I would be very welcoming to have this feedback because from my understanding, and again I have assistant ministers that are working, the regulations were not raised with me. What was raised with me is the difficulty to recruit staff, and we know it is across the board. What was raised with me is the physical spaces that are available, but we are working about if it's anything in the regulation that the Deputy think I need to look at and consider with my staff, I would welcome the feedback.
Deputy Sutton.
Yes, sir. The Minister was complaining earlier about lots of different numbers running around the room and getting in the way of her understanding. What then is the Assembly to do with the figure of 74% retention that she threw into her own argument? Do we have faith in that number? And what does it refer to, 74% retention?
It's very difficult actually to address this question. From one side, I've been told don't tell the numbers. From other side, I'm said, and I need to understand. I'm feeling actually really bad, and I'm really disappointed that we have strikes today. And I wish we can find a way forward. And we've seen the demands from 3 unions are different, and we need to work with each one of them. So now I've been criticized that I have the numbers. If you don't trust the numbers, it's not much I can do.
The question was, what does 74% retention refer to?
74% of the graduates from Jersey Teachers Training Program that been graduated from 2004 remained in our workforce.
Well, second question, Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. Can I ask the Minister, will she be, is she fully aware that the other union that she keeps quoting as being, she's been successful with, is still in dispute, but simply not taking action outside today?
Yes, absolutely, and I'm aware, and I mentioned in my previous answer, we are in dispute, but they are not taking strike action because they recognize that to create terms and conditions and to do the evaluation, it's not one-day process. They have had very successful, good from at least feedback that I had workshop last week, and it will continue. So I'm not saying that everything is sorted, but there are options how we can continue to work once we're thinking about teachers from one side and their needs, and the families and the children and their needs.
Supplemental question, Deputy Ward?
Yes, please, sir. Can I ask the Minister, is she there for putting together whatever the workshop was last week, and can she reassure the Assembly that all unions were involved in that workshop with the current pay dispute? And if she's not doing that, can I ask what is happening in regards to the current pay dispute over pay rather than simply terms and conditions to come to a resolution so that we can all move forward? Thank you, sir.
It's actually two questions. From what I've been told, that 2 teaching unions were involved. The head teachers union, because they're in dispute, didn't come, but one of the head teachers that is not member of the union joined because we needed to hear the views of all parties. And actually yesterday at the ministerial meeting, we discussed how we can reach out also for the staff. For example, we have head teachers representatives. We need to find a way to sit around the table and to communicate and to find the solution.
There may be time, Deputy Lewis, for an extremely quick question.
Thank you, sir. I'm just aware from parents that have been copying me that the cost of school uniforms is getting higher and higher. Even putting a child into a reception class now costs several hundreds of pounds to kit out. Does the Minister have a view?
Thank you, Deputy. Yes, I do have a view. The conversation started last year, and I was grateful for GCRA for providing the report. I have accepted all their recommendations. There is a policy, draft policy developed. We are putting together a working group between the suppliers, because they're important party, parents, representatives, and the teachers, hopefully, once we resolve the dispute, to develop the details. The ultimate goal of policy that would be presented for September 24 is to reduce the cost of school uniform, because it is indeed high.
Maybe time for supplementary? Deputy Scott?
Sir, could I please just apologise for not being in the chamber for my question? I have personally apologised to the Solicitor General.
If you've apologised to the Solicitor General, obviously, thank you for your apology, Deputy Scott. Normally, of course, it is a discourtesy both to the Assembly and to those who have prepared an answer not to be present to ask it, but
sir,
you have tended
you
to.
did pick up the pace a bit, which wasn't expected. Thank you.
Well, I'm afraid we have to be fleet of foot. Sometimes even the Assembly moves quickly. Very well. We now come on to a period of questions without notice to the Minister for Treasury and Resources. Deputy Curtis.
Thank you, sir. Does the Minister think that it is acceptable that the Connect Finance system has resulted in non-payments to suppliers of all sorts of goods and services to government? And what are his plans to ensure that all suppliers are paid promptly?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. Of course, it's not acceptable if suppliers have submitted invoices. Invoices have gone through the appropriate processes across the departments and then not been paid. That, unfortunately, from my review of the work, is not simply something that results from the new finance system. That has been happening over the course of many years. What we have done in Treasury with the system that's in place is gone out and spoken directly to departments that have been finding it challenging. We've done workshops with suppliers and we will continue to do so to ensure that not only government but suppliers can work in a way that means that work is undertaken, purchase orders obviously put in place in advance of that work being undertaken, and when invoices are supplied they are paid in a timely manner. So Invoices have been paid quicker under this new system than the old one, but there are these teething problems that we take very seriously.
Supplemental question, Deputy Curtis.
Yes, thank you, sir. I thank the Minister for his answer, but could he give an answer to the Assembly of roughly how many invoices, the number of invoices, are not being paid within the required time?
So one of the issues that I found in my review and seeking to understand what's happening is the counterfactual, because I can say that many thousands of invoices have been paid within the 30 days. I can say that tens of millions of pounds have been paid, but what I don't know is what I don't know. And what we have found is that invoices from 2022, for example, are still being found across departments, are still being submitted by suppliers. So I unfortunately can't answer information around what I don't know.
Deputy Howell.
Thank you, sir. Please can the Minister explain why he considered it appropriate to increase the Ports of Jersey debt ceiling from 60 million to 150 million, and what manner of investigation did his officers take to ascertain the reasonableness and appropriateness of this amount?
So the decision was to allow them to carry on the work to come back for a formal decision, not to actually at this point allow them to borrow. As the Deputy will know, the Ports of Jersey were created as an arm's length body so that they could act in a commercial manner, so that they didn't need to come back to government every year for capital investment. In order to do that, it is obvious that they would need to borrow over the lifetime of the investment of the changes that they need to make. And the Deputy knows that they have a master plan proposal for the harbour, and in order to deliver that master plan they need to borrow. But the decision and the quantum of the borrowing will need to return to the ministerial team for approval.
Colin Harbison Saviour.
Thank you, sir. This is a little bit cross-departmental, but I know the Minister has extensive overseas experience. So the insurance company Abra Insurance, which is based in Gibraltar, has recently announced that they will not be renewing car insurance for the Channel Islands and the Isle of Man. The UK remains unaffected. Can the Minister explain the rationale behind this law change in Gibraltar that excludes the islands? Thank you.
I'm not sure, I'm afraid, that falls within the portfolio in respect to which the Minister is standing to answer questions in the Assembly, Conatub. If the Minister was standing arguably as Assistant Minister for External Relations, which he isn't, then he would be able perhaps to answer it, but I don't think it's a Treasury matter.
So I would like to be helpful to the Deputy. If he does have concerns and further details they'd like to pass either to myself or a colleague minister in the Council of Ministers, they will certainly review the matter for him.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Minister for an update on the progress of P94 2019 classifications of functions of government proposition, which is still ongoing and cannot understand why it isn't in place 4 years on. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Yes, the COFOG report, as we call it in Treasury, is nearing completion. Earlier this week, I tried to get a commitment that we could publish it by the end of this month. The indication from the officer who's finalising the work that might be challenging, but certainly if it isn't by the end of September, then it will be early October.
Supplemental, Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. I'd just like to congratulate the Minister. I've asked this question about 12 times now, and I've finally got a date when it may actually be in place. Thank you, sir.
Deputy Scott.
Sir, now that I understand that the Minister is involved in in looking after the infrastructure, or at least to have some knowledge of infrastructure of the state-owned entities, I wonder if you could inform me, following from the answer of the Minister for Economic Development to my former question, if he is aware when surveys of aerated concrete buildings by the ports of Jersey are going to take place.
I have to ask you, Minister, is this within your portfolio as Treasury Minister, as shareholder representative? Because it doesn't immediately sound like it is.
Well, sir, I was just going to thank the Deputy for her kind comment saying that I might have some knowledge of infrastructure. I think that's probably the first time anyone has said that. Of course, the Deputy finds that such questions are actually quite difficult to know where to ask them if one wishes to ask them in a public forum such as this. The information provided to the Economic Development Minister is information which I can stand by. Since her earlier question, of course, I have asked officers to contact the ports of Jersey. The surveys which are being undertaken, it is proposed that they'll be undertaken over the coming months. I've been given a timeline of up to 6 months, but I will certainly engage with them to see if that can be done quicker. But they are not focused on whether this particular concrete is in place, because as the information that the Economic Development Minister gave, the indications are that that is not the case.
Supplemental question, Scott?
No, thank you, and my thanks to the Minister.
Deputy Minister.
Thank you, sir. As a good low-tax Conservative, as we know this Minister is, could he confirm that notwithstanding any review taking place into health funding, that he would not want to subject the public of the island of Jersey to more taxation than is necessary, and he has learnt the lessons from his previous tenure as Chief Minister and will not support the introduction of any kind of health tax as happened in the previous term of office?
Yes? Sorry, I'm getting...
don't worry, sir. It is confusing when the Deputy asking the question appears to be parading himself also as a low-tax Conservative. But there we are. We live in a strange world, as we're seeing across in the United Kingdom and their politics as well. Of course, I have no desire to subject islanders to increased levels of taxation, particularly when we are in a high inflation environment and we are dealing with a cost of living crisis rather than increasing taxation. What this Council of Ministers and the Chief Minister has done with her mini-budget is allow more money to be left into islanders' pockets so that they can decide how to spend it. Although we do have to be clear, as the Council of Ministers is bringing forward its government plan and seeking to support appropriate investment in health and deal with some of those challenges, a sustainable mechanism for funding of health has been a challenge for not only Jersey but for many, many jurisdictions, and it is a nettle which will need to be grasped because we are facing an ageing demographic. We know that will lead to increasing health costs, but that will be a decision for this Assembly.
Supplementary, please, sir.
Yes, please, supplementary.
So, of course, it will be a decision of this Assembly, but it's down to the Treasury Minister what he, in his capacity as Minister, chooses to bring to this Assembly to ask for permission to pursue. So will he confirm that anything he may bring, whether it's reluctant or otherwise, will be in line with the government's own principle on taxation, which is that taxes should be low, broad, simple and fair, and will not seek to exempt the super rich from paying the same percentage that the rest of us have to pay, as he attempted and thankfully failed to do in 2016.
So yeah, I'm grateful for the Deputy for reminding me that one loss, that one vote loss. But perhaps, of course, the Health Service would have been in a better place today if that one vote had gone the other way. But that's with the benefit of hindsight. The government will only bring forward proposals which are in line with its underlying policy, and I don't believe that the Deputy would expect us to do anything other than that. But there is an ongoing piece of work looking about sustainable health funding. We know that there is a turnaround team in health. They have done a lot of, I'd say good work, but from a Treasury perspective, difficult work because they've presented challenges to us. We'll be meeting those challenges in the government plan, and members will see that probably around this time next week, sir, which will go to a large extent to alleviating concern that members of this Assembly have had. But there will still be other health funding issues which will need to be addressed.
Deputy Sullivan.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And notwithstanding the depth of the answer just given by the Minister, which was commendable, is he committing himself to ensuring that any taxation measures that he brings in order to cope with health spending are fair and sustainable?
So I would only be bringing forward measures which are in line with the government's underlying policies when it comes to taxation. And we've heard from the colleagues, Deputy, who has detailed what those policies are.
And that includes fairness, does it?
I don't think...
As the Deputy knows, the answer to his own question, so yes.
Thank you.
Very well, that brings the period of questions for this Minister to an end. And the remaining question period is for the Chief Minister. I have a list of people who I imagine went for the last one. So, Deputy Mezek.
Thank you, sir. Hopefully the Chief Minister will be aware of the publication from Statistics Jersey on their average earnings index, which came out recently, which showed that in the preceding year, June 2022 to June of this year, that real terms earnings fell by what appears to be the greatest amount in 1 year that their records show. Will the Chief Minister indicate to this Assembly what plan she has to turn that around?
Thank you, sir. We have, as I spoke earlier, a commitment to ensure that everybody in the island is able to enjoy a good quality of life, but we also have the pernicious effects of inflation. Therefore, whilst the figures from Statistics Jersey are as they are, we have to also allow the economy to move forward as best it can. Let's not forget, sir, that this government, on entering office, actually raised minimum wage to £10.50 an hour, and we also have increased tax allowances so that a single person can earn up to £18,500 before they start to pay tax. And there are many different levers in our economy to use so that we can ensure that those who most need it receive the support and the ability to enjoy a community where everyone can thrive.
Supplementary?
And thank you, sir, but the fact remains that despite those efforts made by the Chief Minister, it is still the case that real terms earnings fell by the greatest amount in 1 year that the records will show on this. So does what will the Chief Minister be proposing in the upcoming government plan to make a real effort to see that the decline of real terms earnings for islanders that we have suffered now for a decade, with earnings not having improved in Jersey for 23 years, that trend will end under her leadership? And can she offer anything more than the wishful thinking of growing the economy without proposing any substance behind that?
This is not wishful thinking, sir. That's why we have a relentless focus on the cost of living. We are taking actions that are pursuing the main aim of ensuring that people have more money in their pockets and the ability to enjoy a good quality of life without contributing to increasing inflation, because we need to bring inflation down. That is a key goal. We currently see a correction in the housing market occurring, and whilst for some that will be a very difficult position, for many others it offers an opportunity to enter the housing market. And another of our key objectives as a government is to increase owner occupation. We will be bringing more forward when we publish the government plan, but I feel that what we're doing is balanced, it is listening to the public, and it is tackling most what is needed to ensure that islanders enjoy the best quality of life here.
Deputy Coles.
Thank you, sir. Is the Chief Minister aware of the issue of insurance underwriters from Gibraltar no longer underwriting insurance for Crown dependencies? And does the Chief Minister foresee any issues to islanders?
I thank the Deputy for the question and for raising this in the Assembly, as I think the Treasury Minister spoke to this issue, which was slightly differently directed from the Constable of St Saviour's earlier. We will endeavour to find out exactly what this issue is, what has been the cause, and how we can best respond to it if required.
Supplemental, Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Does the Chief Minister commit to bringing information back to the Assembly as soon as she receives it?
I'm happy to commit to doing so. Thank you.
Deputy Farnham.
Thank you, sir. Does the Chief Minister know the latest capital cost estimates for the protracted multi-site hospital scheme? And if so, what are they, please?
So those costs will be put in the government plan, which will be, as the Deputy knows, published shortly. We have been doing considerable work in the preparation of the business case, which will follow, I'm told, about 3 weeks after the publication of the government plan, but we're doing considerable work to ensure that costs are being driven down and value for money is being achieved, so that we can deliver the best possible facilities that are both affordable and deliverable. But I can assure the Deputy that they will be considerably beneath the £950 million price tag that was attributed to the previous project at the time that we entered office.
Sir,
Supplemental.
I firstly need to correct the Chief Minister,
No,
sir.
I'm sorry, there's no opportunity to correct an answer. You can ask a question elicited to get the correct answer, Deputy, but you can't stand up and say, no, that's wrong. That's just a debate.
All right.
It's not a question.
We know it's wrong, so there's no point in pursuing it. The States approved 804.5 million last time round. My question was, does the Chief Minister know how much, what the latest cost estimates are, sir, for the new multi-site hospital scheme, sir? And is she honestly trying to kid this Assembly that the costs are going to be considerably less than the previous amount approved by this Assembly?
So we made a commitment to the public to find a project that was both deliverable and affordable, and that is what the Infrastructure Minister is working with the team to do, because we take that commitment extremely seriously. So when we entered office, we were told that the cost of the previous project had risen. They had risen way beyond that limit, that affordability that had been agreed by the previous Assembly, and we took the view, sir, that it was therefore not possible to continue, because of course we've got many other capital projects to deliver. We've got 2 primary schools to build in St Helier, and many other capital projects, including Fort Regent, sir, that we would like to see delivered so that the public can enjoy them, and we also, of course, have to balance our revenue spending, the majority of which is focused on the workforce who support our public services and help us day to day deliver those services for the public of Jersey.
Conor Hobson-Saviour.
Thank you, sir. Further to my question of a few weeks ago, sir, to the Chief Minister regarding phasing out of the mail plane, is the Chief Minister aware that there are many reports around that deliveries are delayed by 1 week, sometimes 2? Does the Chief Minister find this unacceptable, as I do? And will she be speaking to Jersey Post and the UK postal authorities with a view to reinstating the mail plane? Thank you, sir.
So that is simply not in my brief, I'm afraid, to ask the Jersey Post to reinstate the mail plane. That was a decision taken out of their hands by the Royal Mail, but I absolutely agree with the Constable that we should be seeking the best possible service for islanders, and I'm sure that the Minister for Economic Development, Tourism, Sport and Culture will be pursuing that service in his discussions.
Supplemental, Conor.
Thank you, sir. Does the Chief Minister not find it ludicrous that Guernsey have managed to retain their mail service by plane, yet they can't seem to find the extra 30 miles to come across to Jersey, possibly sharing a plane even? Will the Chief Minister really pursue this, as I've had quite a few people complaining? Thank you, sir.
My understanding, sir, is that that decision was a commercial decision and reflects the very different nature of the Guernsey economy. They have 2 significant companies that operate out of Guernsey that rely on, and I imagine have considerable volume in their exportation. And that will, I'm sure, have led to the decision that was taken.
Conor Hobson-Brillard.
Thank you, sir. Given the prolonged absence due to illness of the External Affairs Minister, with which I, of course, sympathise, would the Chief Minister indicate to members what alternative provisions she's putting in place to cover his absence? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. And I thank the Constable for his concern about our colleague who I registered as Merlard today, but I do hope that he will be returning to work shortly. We, of course, do have a talented team, and we have the former Chief Minister and currently the Treasury Minister as an Assistant Minister for External Relations, who is more than capable of assuming many of those duties, and he does. We also have myself, and it is, of course, I'm sure the Constable will be aware, the External Relations Minister, who works concurrently with the Chief Minister on matters of external relations and constitutional affairs as well. And we have other ministers who have stepped up and stepped into his considerable shoes and fulfilled those duties by engaging with external partners and colleagues.
Supplemental question, Conor.
Yes, I know it's difficult for the Chief Minister to give a response, but do we have a timeline on the External Affairs Minister returning, in all fairness, to those who are actually being forced to step up to the mark? Thank you, sir.
I think that would be straying into personnel matters, which we would normally accord to public servants, and I think in this respect we should to our colleague as well. However, we have a plan with the Department for External Relations, a plan which they are content with. We have a travel programme, of course, for which tickets have to be booked, hotels have to be booked, and that has to be done in advance. And so we have been able to fulfil all of those various duties within the knowledge of the situation that we have.
Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. Can I just ask the Minister for clarity? What is the top level of spend that she would find acceptable for the new hospital project? Thank you, sir.
I thank the Deputy for the question. What would be the top level of spend? I think, and forgive me for not giving a figure, sir, but I don't think that would be appropriate. What we said was something that is affordable and deliverable. And of course, particularly in this vastly changing economic circumstance, that depends greatly on our ability to raise funds, probably through borrowing, and divest of funds, assets perhaps, to raise other funds. So it is very much a shifting project, but what I want to see is something that is both affordable and deliverable, and that at any particular time has many variables, and underlying that is its affordability to the public purse.
Supplemental question, Deputy Ward?
Yes, thank you, sir. I think what people in Jersey want to hear following the last election of a guarantee from the Chief Minister that the amount of money being spent on our new hospital will be less than the previous project, even if the previous project increased to around £1 billion. Can the Minister guarantee that the spend will be less than previously, as promised through a number of election campaigns from herself and her colleagues? Thank you, sir.
Sir, I'm fully with the public in wanting to see an affordable project delivered. What we are now seeing put together is a programme which is slightly different. It covers and will deliver more than 134 additional beds to what was previously proposed. And so without wanting to sound like I am ducking the questions, I do want to make it very clear that we are now looking at a programme of upgrading healthcare facilities across the board that will deliver better services for islanders, a greater number of beds, so that we will see the current blocking that we have in the acute in the general hospital avoided in future, so that people can receive the best care in the best place for them.
There may be time for a very quick question, Deputy Sutton.
It will be very quick, sir. There's this question about your treatment earlier of a question asked by Deputy Farnham, who accused the Chief Minister of trying to kid the public. I just wondered if that was parliamentary language, because if it is, I'm going to use it.
It seems to me that I wasn't asked to make a ruling, and I thought the moment had passed. To kid someone is to mislead them, is to make them think that a thing is one thing when it in fact is another thing. And in my view, that is unparliamentary language. It's a synonym for mislead. And
Shame.
I would have...
So may I just ask a point of clarification?
Yes.
When somebody is misleading the public, so what is the correct terminology to use?
Well, the answer is you would presumably wish to say that the responder was unintentionally misleading the Assembly.
Thank you, sir. I shall
That's
use that
probably-
next time. Thank you.
It would have to be unintentionally, though, misleading the Assembly. And I think the issue of kidding is that it implies intentionality rather than unintentionality.
So could I question, there's obviously an element of joking. So if you say you must be kidding, sir, I think it's reasonable for members or the public to look at the pay offer that, for example, Council of Ministers is offering teachers and say, you must be kidding. And that's not unparliamentary in the context, sir.
Well, it's actually a matter for me what's parliamentary, but your submission is that it's not parliamentary. If and when it arises, I'll make the decision when I'm called upon to do so. Very well. That ends question time. We now have next on the order paper a personal statement from Deputy Andrews of St Helier North. I would remind members there are no questions that follow from the making of this statement.
Thank you very much, sir. Having read the Commissioner Standards report, having attended a meeting with the Privileges and Procedures Committee on 25th of August 2023, I have taken the time to reflect upon the findings of the Commissioner for Standards investigation into the 2 complaints Deputy Scott lodged against me. Having acknowledged the full severity of the findings, I believe it is appropriate for me to apologise to fellow States members for bringing the States Assembly into disrepute. As much as the situation became untenable, I happened to be reactionary to the situation that unfolded once the counter-complaint had been lodged against me, which has culminated in a series of personal errors, which upon careful reflection has been something I have genuinely regretted and learnt from. Breaching the Code of Conduct. I must apologise to States members and Deputy Scott for my use of language on Liberation Day, which was totally unacceptable. In addition to this, I disclosed details of a live complaint to third parties. As a result, I have breached both paragraphs 5 and 8 of the Code of Conduct. I accept full responsibility for my actions, and I wholeheartedly apologise to States members and Deputy Scott, and I hope members will forgive me for my actions. I also need to apologise for the way I communicated both online and to other members regarding Deputy Scott. Such behaviour is in breach of paragraph 5 of the Code of Conduct. As the Commissioner for Standards postulates in her report, such actions bring the state or its members generally into disrepute. Since discussing the use of social media with the Privileges and Procedures Committee, I will endeavour to use social media as a platform to communicate positively and effectively about the work I do in the States Assembly. As the Commissioner for Standards states, if Deputy Andrews has nothing nice to say about Deputy Scott, then he shouldn't say it. The Commissioner for Standards is correct. Such communications bring the States Assembly into disrepute. This is something I have taken on board, and I will make the necessary changes to ensure such actions don't happen again. On the 23rd of August 2023, I sent Deputy Scott an email regarding private and sensitive contents, which I have previously sent to the Commissioner for Standards, which involved members, officers, and members of the public. This is evidently a significant breach of paragraphs 3, 5, and 8 of the Code of Conduct for States members. This was totally unacceptable, and I wholeheartedly want to apologise to Deputy Scott and State members for my actions. I am fully aware of the significance of breaching the Code of Conduct, and this is something I will certainly learn from. I have been struggling with my mental well-being, and this was something I spoke to the Privileges and Procedures Committee about during the meeting that took place on the 25th of August 2023. During the meeting, I explained to the Privileges and Procedures Committee how I needed help because I was struggling with my mental well-being. In response to this, the States Greffier and the Privileges and Procedures Committee have provided counselling sessions for me. I have also made an appointment to see a psychiatrist because inevitably this situation has been too much for me to handle. I have also taken steps forward by attending sessions at the Listening Lounge and my Jersey too. It cannot be underestimated how the stress and pressure has been insurmountable, and this has impacted upon me greatly. I am pleased to see action has now been taken to assist States members with the provision of counselling. This was much needed resource that I needed over this extended period of time, which was not available until now. So thank you, sir, for allowing me the time to read that statement, and I also will be supporting the vote of censure as well.
Thank you very much. Very well. The next item of public business is the vote of censure. It's the vote of censure Deputy MB Andrews of St Helier North, and it's lodged by the Privileges and Procedures Committee, and I ask the greffier to read the proposition.
The States are asked to decide whether they are of opinion to censure Deputy Max Andrews of St Helier North, whom the Privileges and Procedures Committee has determined breached the Code of Conduct for elected members, as detailed in the report R130 of 2023.
Jen?
Thank you, sir. It is my difficult duty today as Chair of PPC to bring forward this vote of censure in Deputy Andrews, Bringing forward the proposition is not a pleasurable task, nor has it been an easy process. But I suggest that it is essential that if we are to uphold the Code of Conduct and show the public that we maintain the standards expected. PPC is pleased that Deputy Andrews has today accepted the vote of censure, as can be seen in Deputy Andrews' apology. I very much hope that members have read the report from PPC, which contains the report from the Commissioner for Standards on her investigation into the complaints against Deputy Andrews. The Commissioner found that Deputy Andrews breached Articles 5, 8 and 3 of the Code of Conduct. The breach of Article 3 occurred once the investigation had been completed. In relation to Article 5, which is to maintain the integrity of the states, the Commissioner found that Deputy Andrews breached this part of the code by his sustained disrespectful communications to Deputy Scott and about Deputy Scott, including public posts. This article was further breached by his use of language towards Deputy Scott on Liberation Day. In relation to Article 8, which relates to the access to confidential information, the Commissioner found that Deputy Andrews breached this part of the code when he disclosed confidential information, including information relating to live and confidential investigations. In relation to Article 3, which relates to personal conduct, the Commissioner found that Deputy Andrews breached this part of the code when he sent the document Notes on Mods to Deputy Scott. This particular occurrence happened after the Commissioner had completed her investigation and submitted her report to the committee. The Commissioner felt compelled to write to us, not only to let us know about the sharing of confidential, personal and sensitive information about the case, but also to let us know that it resulted in a further breach of the code. We held a meeting with Deputy Andrews on the 25th of August, and it is clear that this process has taken a personal toll on the Deputy and on his well-being. We have since taken measures to aid with his well-being. We did not make this decision to bring this vote of censure lightly, but we have accepted the Commissioner's findings that the code has been breached and agreed with the recommendations that the Commissioner has made. We therefore requested Deputy Andrews apologise directly to Deputy Scott, which he has done, and that an apology also be given to the Assembly, which we have just heard. But in light of the number of significance of the breaches of the Code of Conduct, PPC concluded that additional sanction was required. It is for these reasons that PPC seeks to bring this vote of censure on Deputy Andrews, and I make the proposition. Thank you, sir.
Is the proposition seconded? Deputy Andrews, you have the right to speak first. Do you wish to speak? Very well. Deputy Wall.
So I didn't want to particularly speak. I just would like to understand the process of the censure, because
Yes.
as a new member, I'm not familiar with this.
The process is this, rather like for a vote of no confidence or something of a similar nature. The proposition is brought, it needs to be seconded, and ultimately will need to be voted on. The process is that after the proposition has been made and seconded, the person who is the subject of the proposition gets an opportunity to first speak. Thereafter, any member who wishes to speak, and no one needs to speak, it's entirely a matter for members if they think they have something they wish to add, they then have the opportunity of speaking. Immediately before the proposer sums up the proposition, Deputy Andrews will again have a chance to speak. It's one of the few occasions where the subject gets an opportunity to speak twice. And then it will be summed up and put to the vote. That's the process. The effect of a censure is simply that. It's a standing record of censure. There is no logical consequence or necessary consequence that flows from that in terms of effect on the subject of the censure at this stage. Does that assist, Deputy? Very well. Deputy Andrews doesn't wish to speak. Does any member wish to speak? Deputy Scott.
Thank you, sir. The submission I made to the Commissioner explains the extraordinary attempts I made to protect the Deputy from his own conduct, despite his rejection of the options of mediation, and until I complained to the Commissioner of resigning from the Economics and International Affairs panel. The conduct I complained of took the form of unpleasant verbal communications regarding my conduct and reputation that the Deputy persisted in sending to me privately from November of last year up to last month, culminating with a document entitled Notes on Moz. The duty of confidentiality that I owe to the Deputy require me to keep these messages private. His conduct also took the form of bad-mouthing me to my colleagues and on social media platforms. When the Deputy complained again against my 2 instances of inappropriate language towards him, for which I have apologised to the Deputy, without providing any context to the President of the Scrutiny Liaison Committee, the Deputy forced my hand to complain to the Commissioner about his conduct. This was to provide context for his complaints and prompt an independent and professional investigation of the matter. Subsequently, both of us have had to undergo a grueling, public, and unnecessarily costly process to reach agreement on what type of conduct is appropriate for a States member and what most certainly isn't. So I need to correct some perhaps misinformation about the Economic and International Affairs panel. The resignations of Deputies Andrews and Kovash did not leave the panel in disarray. 3 States members remained on the panel, no fewer than in preceding States assemblies, and without the same level of internal tensions. Had not the Deputy joined the panel when it was first formed, it is quite likely the panel would only have had 2 members from the outset. I am restricted in my choices regarding the number and quality of the panel's members, owing to the composition and structure of the States Assembly, none of which is of my making. Constable Troy has affirmed his departure from the panel was not related to my conduct as chair. The panel has a particularly demanding and specialised workload, not least because, unlike any other scrutiny panel, it scrutinises the work of 4 ministers. For now, Constable Honeycomb and I have continued to carry the workload with the much appreciated help of Constable Troy with the panel's supply chain review, for which I thank him. The panel requires high-level experience and maturity on the part of its members to avoid the panel being officer-led. Other States members' interests, specialisations, workloads and priorities stand in the way of their becoming full members of the panel. Some may argue it could help if constables were not part of the States Assembly and replaced with deputies elected in what can be an equally small number of votes, but the electorate rejected this possibility in 2 referenda. None of this can be said of my making either. And then let's look at the numbers. 28 States members, including the constables, can serve on the 5 scrutiny panels and the Public Accounts Committee. None of the States members chosen to serve on the Council of Ministers can. No backbencher is required to serve on scrutiny, and there are at least 9 other panels and committees also requiring resourcing by backbenchers. One may look to the constables to support scrutiny, but a significant number serve on the Planning Committee, on which almost a third of backbenchers have doubled up on its work to clear a backlog. Constables not only have their parishes to oversee, but often receive criticism within their parishes for not prioritising that work. Even as a deputy, my constituents have asked if I'm spreading myself too thinly by acting as the panel's chair. Rather than anyone maligning my work as the panel's chairman and having scrutiny panels limp on while needing extra resourcing, while many members question their effectiveness compared to the committee system, members should be considering a fundamental design of the current ministerial and scrutiny systems. They also should be questioning the extent to which the authors of the Clothier report consider the practical and financial implications of their proposed machinery for an island as small as Jersey, particularly in view of its resultant increase of bureaucracy and siloism. We have limited human and financial resources, a disengaged public, and a lack of necessary investment to provide objective data for policy making and problem solving. The number of members remaining on the Economics and International Panel currently stands at 2, with no guarantee this number will increase during this term. I thank Constable Honeycomb for continuing, for now at least, and the officers who support us admirably and professionally.
Deputy, I do hesitate to interrupt you because I realise you are very closely involved with the subject matter of the matter for the Assembly at the moment. The question for the Assembly is whether or not to adopt a vote of censure. It is not a general discussion on scrutiny panels, nor indeed generally of your own position about scrutiny panels. It is the Deputy to be censured or not? And I really do have to draw you back to a relevant submission on that point if you have anything to add to it.
No, sir.
Does any other member wish to speak? Conrad Harbison.
Thank you, sir. And I'm pleased to stand to speak in support of a parish deputy. Sir, we've heard much of the mental effect on Deputy Andrews. We've heard nothing of the effect of all this on Deputy Scott, with whom I do sympathise wholeheartedly. I would also add, sir, that for the female members of this Assembly, this has been quite revealing and an eye-opener. And I do question, sir, whether Deputy Andrews would have dealt with a male chairman of a panel in the same way as he's dealt with a female member. And I think it raises the point, sir, where can a female member go if there is no satisfaction from our system as it is at present? Is the next stage to go to the police? What is the mechanism? Do we have one, and ought we to have one? And it may be, sir, for the Solicitor General who's present here today to comment on that. And does he consider, or might he consider, at which point a female member may be compelled to go to the police for advice if they consider they have been unfairly, should we say, approached or dealt with by a male member? Is that question appropriate, sir?
Well, it may be an appropriate question to ask in some contexts, Connetab, but in my judgment, it cannot possibly have a bearing upon the answer for the Assembly as to whether Deputy Andrews is to be censured or not. It doesn't matter what the Solicitor General says, the Assembly will, I'm not sure, be helped in reaching its decision. It's open to a member, of course, to ask a question of the Solicitor General at any point, but and it may be that that is an appropriate matter to take up in question time at some point.
Indeed, sir, and I shall do that. So in conclusion, sir, I feel certainly, as the chair of the PPC has mentioned, this Assembly has been slighted by this whole business. It's unsavoury, unsatisfactory, and I honestly feel that the Deputy should consider his position and offer his resignation to the Assembly. Thank you, sir.
Deputy Moore.
Thank you, sir. No member of this Assembly can ever take pleasure from these types of debates, and today I can sense that everyone is quite uncomfortable. I simply wanted to speak briefly on behalf of ministers and assistant ministers in the hope that this will be a short debate. We acknowledge and accept the comments made by Deputy Andrews in his statement, and we're grateful to him for what has been, I think, a difficult journey, but the recognition and the acceptance that he has himself breached the Code of Conduct. Deputy Andrews has recognised that he has simply made mistakes. We all, of course, at times make mistakes. And when we do, the best response is to admit to those mistakes, to learn from them, and to move on. It is clear, sir, that the recent months have taken a significant toll on Deputy Andrews. We all need to look out for our well-being and that of our colleagues. And I hope, sir, that the Deputy will emerge from this period stronger and wiser for the experience. I firmly believe that the best course of action today is to be brief. I sense that it's perhaps time to adjourn for lunch, but we will all move together constructively from this point with a renewed determination to treat each other with respect and courtesy despite the proposition that is before us today.
Very much, Chief Minister.
So before, I was going to ask, before the adjournment is moved by anyone, can we ask how many members are left to speak?
What I was going to ask is whether members consider this as a matter that should be adjourned or should be dealt with now as we've started. But that's a valid question to ask, Deputy, indeed. Do any other members anticipate speaking in this matter? Well, in which case, does any other member wish to speak? In which case, I close the debate and call upon the Chair of PPC to ask him.
Thank you, sir. I would just like to say in answer to Constable of St Brelard that PPC has very much taken on board the toll on Deputy Scott and the ordeal that she has been put through. And I'll reiterate that we are pleased that Deputy Andrews has today accepted this vote of censure. I will be brief. All members are aware that we are elected to this Assembly with the expectation that we represent Irelanders to the best of our abilities. If we fail to uphold the standards of our own behaviour, then we fail as an Assembly and we fail the public. To be a successful Assembly, we all need to adhere to high standards. We all need to show that we have integrity, and we all need to respect our colleagues. High standards and integrity should always underpin this Assembly. I call for the appel.
That is called for. I invite members to return to their seat. The vote is on whether the vote of censure should apply. And I ask the greffier to open the voting and members to vote. It's all right, we'll wait until you've got through. Members have had the opportunity of casting their vote.
So can I just confirm you got my vote online?
Yes, we do have your vote online, Deputy, yes.
Thank you.
Then I ask the greffier to close the voting. The proposition has been adopted. 45 votes pour, 0 votes contre, no abstentions.
I move the adjournment, please, sir.
Yes, before moving the adjournment, can I confirm that I have fined myself for my phone going off and pay up immediately, greffier?
It's good to see you still carry cash, sir.
Yes. Only against this eventuality. So the adjournment has been proposed. The Assembly stands adjourned until 2:15.